As the leader of the Booner pack, I lead from the front.
All right, boys. Lock in.
It's our core foundation, man. Grit.
I'm fired up. I'm fired the f*** up, boys.
It's pumping right now. It's got my juices pumping, boys.
Welcome, everyone, to Crunch Time Sports with Jeff Booner, Lukas, and Gentry. It is Wednesday, October 16th. Coming off another pretty hectic day for Lions fans. A lot of news coming out, a lot of reports coming out. We have Doc joining us on a Wednesday, so packed show today. Lots to get to. It's fun, even though Aiden Hutchinson going down is not fun, and it's actually terrible. I do enjoy. I like transactions. Sports is all transactional. I enjoy talking trades. I do, even though we don't even know what to expect. We don't even know what kind of trade Brad will make. But we're gonna have a good show today. I'm fired up about it.
Can't wait. You know, a couple rumors going out there. Like you said, Iafrate, that a lot of Lions fans would be excited about. Some are going to be like, no way. But Brad's making some calls, and that's all we can ask for at this moment. But great Wednesday. Can't wait to have the Doc on. Got Unk on. Going to be a great show. Boone join a little bit. Going to be a great Wednesday night, fellas.
Yeah, not only is it a rumor, Jeff, it's a rumor that you were kind of behind from the get-go, and now it's kind of unfolding. So you may be able to take a victory lap if this does pan out, but it's definitely exciting stuff after the recent events to kind of hear a name like this get dropped.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because when we talked about adding, and we've been talking about adding an edge at the deadline for 4 or 5 months. I didn't think Hutchinson would have like a traumatic injury to like excel that. You'd hope that the guy they acquire could play with Hutch. I was a big Haason Reddick guy at one point. Okay, I was. I'm still intrigued by it. I just think there's been a lot of red flags that have kind of came out that kind of give me, cause for concern. So we're going to break that down. I have the graphic here. We put it out on our social media. And Jeremy Fowler of ESPN, he started this. Very reputable source from ESPN. He put in an ESPN Plus article discussing just like different things around the NFL. And he did write one thing regarding the Detroit Lions. And basically that thing was that they should inquire about Haason Reddick. And in the article, he wrote that he's heard from a source that the Detroit Lions, well, really Brad Holmes has checked in on Haason Reddick, at least made the call and just said, hey, what's it going to cost? Brad just doing his job, by the way. Brad just checking up on his availability, what it will cost. I'm sure he's talked to Drew Rosenhaus, his agent. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of factors to this. I'm sure Brad's called a lot of teams. So, no, this doesn't mean that Haason Reddick's the only option. And no, it does not mean that it's going to happen. But we do have a legitimate report that Brad's at least inquired about him. And the thing that I have to say about this is I'm glad that Brad's making phone calls and being active. We knew he would. I think Haason Reddick's a very good player. He's averaging through his career. Jeremy Fowler wrote in the article, like 13 sacks a year. He's had he has 50 something sacks in his career. And he's a very productive player. I mean, he's had double digit sacks the last 3 years. He's holding out currently with the New York Jets because he's been expecting, or at least he's been wanting a contract extension. And the Jets, when they traded for him, he thought he would get it. Jets haven't gave it to him. So he's kind of in this holdout. He's been fined a lot. He had to get a new agent because apparently there was accusations. He kind of threatened, or his agent felt threatened by him. It was weird. Now he's with Drew Rosenhaus, who's the biggest agent in the NFL. So it's been kind of a weird, storyline with Haason Reddick. I don't know how much of a culture fit it is, but I will tell you one thing, fellas, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Statistically, he is a very productive player. So if Brad can convince him or his agent or to come to the Lions and play on a contract year, kind of like Judon. Like Judon held out from the Patriots. He wanted a contract, and then eventually the Falcons traded for him and he played on a contract year. So there's that, but here's the difference. Matthew Judon, he checks the character box. He checks the good, all the stuff you like. Culture, he's from the area. Haason, little different, even though there's similar situations. But what do you guys think of this Haason Reddick stuff going on now? your thoughts on him.
Can Haason Reddick rush the quarterback at a high rate?
Well, he can't. Yes, he can.
Haason Reddick done it for numerous teams around the league.
Yes, he
Do we
has.
think that this culture in Detroit is very strong, very, very strong? Some would say the best of the NFL.
Yes, it is.
Do you think it's strong enough to withstand one player being kind of like, I don't know if he's a fit? Do you think they can still be very good?
I mean, they did it with CJ, so
That was the next point that I was going with. Another former Philadelphia Eagle. Look, I get the point if you're heading into the season with Aiden Hutchinson in this defense, saying, you know what, Haason Reddick, he'd be great to have, but we don't need him. If you are the Detroit Lions and you want to win a Super Bowl this year, not make it to the Super Bowl and lose, not make it to the NFC Championship and lose, you want to win a Super Bowl, you go and get a guy like Haason. I don't care about the character issues because at the end of the day, Haason Reddick right now needs his money. He's going to go show that, okay, I got to play this year because I want to get that big money contract. You can't do that unless you play football. And right now, Haason Reddick's not going to be a guy that's like, let me go back to Carolina where they can pay me and I can just play another season. Then Haason Reddick doesn't he's not a vet, but he's getting towards this could start being the end of his prime. He wants to win. So in my opinion, Haason Reddick, I don't care about character issues. If the guy can get after the quarterback at a high rate and help this defense get better and help this team win a Super Bowl, you make the trade because he's not going to be on a big deal. You're not going to have to give up a first-round pick, second-round pick, or anything like that.
Yeah, no, I mean, Jeff, you kind of brought it up too. Obviously, I think the biggest thing with him, what type of player he is. He's had 10 sacks multiple times. It's kind of just how are the Lions going to sway to him to play without getting another contract? That's the only thing, because obviously the Lions you've seen with Aleem McNeil getting paid and them just paying their players, and they still have a lot of guys to pay. So I just can't see them trading for Haason Reddick and then extending him for a boatload of money with all that being on the table. Now, obviously, you do need a guy like him, and you're not like some of the guys that have been mentioned, even the guy that you signed today, Isaiah Thomas, that those guys aren't going to move the needle that much. And then Haason Reddick is one of those guys. Obviously, he's not that good against the run compared to getting to the quarterback and being a pure pass rusher. But you have guys that make up for it in the run game. He's not easily going to replace Aiden Hutchinson. That's impossible. But he can do some of the things that Aiden did well and will help out the defense. And like Lukas said, obviously, I don't think his character hasn't been displayed the best. But when you have a locker room like the Detroit Lions do, I think that's easy to get along with and easy to fit in with. So I think if you get him in the room, I think there's definitely a chance that he will fit right in and, have his eyes on the bigger prize. But I think it's just more of the money situation with Haason Reddick and how would the Lions get that handled, or how would they get him to pay without a contract?
And there's a lot of angles to this. I want to bring up this. Damon Dice says, I heard if Reddick gets traded to an NFC team, Jets owe the Eagles a second-round pick. I don't know if that's true. If that's true, then number one, that's a hell of a finagle by the Eagles to kind of put that in there. I didn't even know that was a thing. If he gets traded in our conference, you got to give us a pick because we ain't dealing with that without a draft pick. I don't know if that's true. It's smart by the Eagles, and that's probably what Brad, I see people saying it's true. I'll just trust you guys on that. If Brad called and asked, I'm sure he knows. So maybe that ends this entire thing. It just does. But the reality, guys, is when you look at guys that could potentially be available, there, if you want to put them in tiers, which you did this yesterday, Klotz, Haason Reddick is he's up there in the tiers. He is, in terms of production, there's Trey Hendrickson, Max Crosby's the guy, obviously Myles Garrett for those who think that's a possibility. And Booner just clarified it. The third they traded turns into a second. Yeah. So again, that's smart by the Eagles. I didn't even know that. Very smart. There's tiers. Haason is kind of right below Trey Hendrickson. Now the character stuff I get is a huge thing. I mean, if this was even possible, the character stuff, you could look at it either way. Your guys' way, which is this locker room strong. If you bring him in, he could kind of fit into the culture because you have so many guys that are pillar guys. And I talked about that today on the video we posted. Or you look at it like this guy could sabotage the culture and, will he even play without being paid? I don't know. There's a lot of things. I know one thing, Lions are not going to give him a contract extension. I mean, they have other guys they have to extend. So how realistic it is, I don't know. But the fact that Brad made the phone call means he's active, and I'm not just talking about signing Isaiah Thomas active. He's yeah, and not the Hall of Famer, not the 5A basketball player, but Isaiah Thomas. He was at practice today, actually, the guy they brought in. Big dude. I want to get Doc's opinion on that because he was at practice. He got some footage of him. big fella. I don't know what to expect out of him, but at least we know he's trying to be a little aggressive. He's making phone calls. He's doing his job. He's not sitting back and chilling. Not that we thought he would, but you just didn't know how Brad would handle this. I'm sure he's called a bunch of teams to see about guys' availability and probably got told no a bunch of times. But hey, the only opinion about what kind of character he has or the situation he has going for him, the only person that the opinion matters is really Brad Holmes. Like, what does he think? You know what I mean? If he thinks they can overcome it, then
I don't see if Brad Holmes pulls the trigger on a deal for Haason Reddick, he already knows that Haason Reddick is going to play. Like, if I don't think there's any way that Brad Holmes signs a player who doesn't end up playing football, and it would make no sense for Haason Reddick to just continue that saga somewhere else because that's only going to hurt his team. Like, nobody's going to want to sign you. You got to show that you still want to play football, and if you do that on a high level, then that high contract you were seeking from the Jets, you go and you get that. And the same thing with like the Eagles. Like, you can now get a chance to stab at the Eagles and be like, you guys didn't want to re-sign me. I'm going to go to another team in the NFC. Help them win a Super Bowl. Because Philadelphia right now, they could use a guy like Haason Reddick. The Detroit Lions could also use a guy like Haason Reddick. So if he goes into Detroit, that definitely kind of solidifies like, okay, this defense, it's not going to be Aiden Hutchinson, but you know that you have a dude that can get after the quarterback. Because like Gentry said, he's not great at getting against the run. Like, he's not great against the run, but this defense as a whole is. You need to still be able to get after the quarterback and that pass rushing ability that Aiden Hutchinson lost. And by just saying, like, you could have Haason Reddick, but he might shake up the locker room. Like, people act like Haason Reddick's just going to be like the match that lights this locker room on fire that's already pouring gasoline. Like, guys, you really think like when he looks to his left and his right, he's going to see Lee McNeil and DJ Reader. Do you really think Haason Reddick is really going to sabotage that defensive front behind him? Alex Anzalone and Jack Campbell. Jack Campbell literally does not give a damn about anything but football. Anything that going, he's block it out. Alex Anzalone, he's been in this locker room with a guy like C.J. Gardner-Johnson before in Detroit and in New Orleans. So this defense, like the whole, like, he's a culture problem. Like, yeah, maybe, but if there's a culture that's going to get him in check, it's in Detroit. I think if you send him to somewhere like a Kansas City right now, like, you see the culture that's going on. A great football team, but off the field, they have a lot of problems going on there. Detroit's never been a situation like that. They had it with Cam Sutton. They've released him right away. So they made sure that they clean their hands. I think when you look at this environment, and look how Cam Sutton was like during the season. Like, he wasn't a distraction, a culture problem during the season. When you heard that Cam Sutton news, you're like, what the fuck? Cam Sutton?
Yeah.
Like, it blew everybody. Like, you didn't see anything of that. This locker room, I think, would put Haason Reddick to a higher standard of accountability. Then you look at what the locker room and just the culture is like in New York right now. Like, look at the culture in New York. They fired their week 5 of the season. The culture there is just not there. It's Aaron Rodgers' team. So you bring Haason Reddick in Detroit, I think it's a different situation.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that Matt. I mean, did you guys remember hearing anything about Haason Reddick before the Jets in terms of like bad character guy? I don't think I, off the top of my head, remember any reporting about him being a problem in the locker room. I mean, not that he's a problem. I don't even hear that. I just hear he's a diva. I mean, essentially because of the contract, which, like, I get it. Get your money. I get all that. But I didn't really hear anything. So it's kind of a weird. I mean, that's probably why Brad's checking up on his situation there. It's just kind of weird. I just because you're like, well, bad culture guy, no thanks. Like, I don't know if that is the only reason. There's like, what about the contract, which makes more sense? Like, does he want to get paid? Because, you know, Brad Holmes ain't forking over money at Haason Reddick right now. You know, so he would have to play.
Like Luke's point, Brad Holmes isn't inquiring, or he wouldn't be traded here, Haason Reddick, if Brad Holmes didn't already have a plan for his future and his contract. Like Lucas said, he's not going to come here and hold out. Brad, I'm sure, will have everything figured out, so that wouldn't happen if that was the case. So, yeah.
And I'm curious too. I mean, I want to do something with you guys here. We got Booner's going to be joining the show in about 15 or so minutes, and then we'll have the doc on 8:45. So we got a packed show, so stick around for it. I want to do a game with you guys. We're going to do this or that. I'm going to give you some names, guys that could potentially be available for trade, and I'm going to name 2 guys. You tell me which one you'd prefer and why. So I'm going to give you a set of names here. So the first 2 we're going to do. And again, these are reportedly available and potentially available. These aren't guaranteed because, again, you don't really know till they're traded. I mean, I didn't know Mari Cooper would be traded. Yeah, hypothetical, but just for Lions fans, chat, feel free to play along as well. So the first 2 names we're going to do, I'm going to give you these 2 names. Okay. Khalil Mack and Zadarius Smith. Those 2 names, you give me this or that. Which player would you rather have on the Lions right now? Which player would you like, Brad, if they were both available to go and get?
This isn't even close for me. Give me Khalil Mack, the man that's going to be arguably a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's an all-timer since he stepped in the league as far as sack leaders, tackle leader, tackle for loss. He's great against the run. Zadarius Smith, I think he never was Khalil Mack, so they're both on their decline. But Zadarius Smith also big injuries. Khalil Mack last season had a game where he had 3 or 4, even 5 sacks in one game. And Khalil Mack already has a couple of sacks during the season. I think Zadarius Smith is a fine, very fine piece that I think would help this roster. But I think Khalil Mack is truly would be a playmaker and a difference maker because he's also played in the NFC North before with the Chicago Bears. He knows what it's like going into Lambeau. He knows what it's like going into Minnesota. Khalil Mack is a guy that any team could use. Any team could use Khalil Mack, regardless of how loaded they are at the defensive end spot. And he's on a 1-year contract. And even if the Lions probably won't resign him. If they wanted to, they'd have the flexibility to be like, hey, you're a veteran, bring you back on a low-budget deal. Khalil Mack does nothing but help this team, and I think it does more than he does with Zadarius Smith.
Yeah, to be honest, I think Zadarius Smith you could obviously get for way less, probably. I don't know, actually, maybe just because Khalil Mack's contract's so big, it might not cost much. But I'm with Lucas here. I think I would rather have Khalil Mack. I think he's kind of shown more consistency, kind of like Art did say in the chat. But either one of these guys would totally be okay with me. And I think Khalil Mack kind of brings more of that locker room presence and would fit more right in. Not that Zadarius Smith wouldn't, but I think the fit of Khalil Mack would fit like a glove. So I would take Khalil Mack, even though his contract is pretty hefty.
So, and by the way, your NFC North thing, shout out Scratch Golf, Smith played for the Vikings and the Packers. So, there you go. Both have familiarity. Obviously, Khalil Mack in his prime and still like right now, he's very good. Last year, he had like 6 sacks in a game. He ended with 17, which is ridiculous. I would agree. Khalil Mack has like the most forced fumbles like over the last, like, I don't know how many years, but he by far takes the ball away the most. Like it's ridiculous. I read a stat the other day and I'm like, geez, Khalil Mack is still very good. Even at his age. I mean, he's 3 years old. Zadarius Smith is 32. So they're about the same age. I will go with Khalil Mack. He's on an expiring deal. I know Zadarius Smith, he might be on an expiring deal as well. And I'm curious.
On a 2-year deal, or at least for last, like he doesn't have that much time left at the bare minimum.
Okay. Yeah, I would have to check. I would have to double check. I know Zadarius would probably be cheaper, but both very good options. So the next two, we all agree, Khalil Mack. The next two, I'm going to go here. I'm going to go Trey Hendrickson. And by the way, we have to factor in a little bit here. It's not just who's the better player. It's who would be a better fit and what, I guess, in your eyes is more realistic. Like, you kind of factor that in too, because the better player thing we could do. Here, I'm going to do Trey Hendrickson or Haason Reddick. Trey Hendrickson or Haason Reddick.
This one's easy for
I would way rather have Trey Hendrickson, but I don't know if the Bengals are going to give up on him just yet. And I think obviously Haason Reddick, there is some stuff that you would have to figure out with him, and he is a great player and all, but with his whole ego and stuff like that, and his locker room problems, money problems, and then you get Trey Hendrickson, just the kind of locker room guy he is, and he's a motor of a player. I mean, I think it's a walk in the park. I would take Hendrickson by a mile.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Hendrickson by a mile, just because we can do against the run too, and I don't care. Like, the Cincinnati Bengals defense is terrible right now, and you'd be taking away the star of their defense, the centerpiece of their defense. But every player in the NFL has a price, and if you can bring in a guy that had 17 plus sacks last year that can be good against the run, it's not Aiden Hutchinson. And not to be disrespectful, Trey Hendrickson is practically a Walmart Aiden Hutchinson. Again, not disrespectful, but you're talking about defensive player of the year. You got the tier below him, and he maybe a tier a little bit below that. That's Trey Hendrickson. He's a guy that, without a doubt, if the Detroit Lions got Trey Hendrickson, acquired Trey Hendrickson, I would lock them right back into their Super Bowl favorites. If it's not the Kansas City Chiefs, it's them, and I would even put the Lions above the Chiefs.
So here's where it gets tough. Trey Hendrickson is the better player. Like, I would be more interested in him. I just don't know when or if the Bengals are going to trade him. I don't know. And that's like the thing, the big question we have to find the answer to, because he did ask out at one point. He's playing right now. The Bengals are still kind of alive. But I do like the familiarity with Dan Campbell. He played with DJ Reader. So they obviously would prefer Hendrickson because they have that. They know him personally, the human being. They know what he's about. You don't really know Haason Reddick. No one really does. I don't know. I'm trying to think of guys who have played with him on this team. I don't even know if anyone's played with him off the top of my head. So it's more of an unknown. So I would go Trey Hendrickson, but again, more realistic, I would probably go Haason Reddick. Like, I don't know how realistic Trey Hendrickson is at this point. I'm sorry. And I hate to be the guy. I know Booner's been big on Trey Hendrickson, and I would be open to it. The Bengals would have to literally lose out or lose a bunch of games. And by the deadline, they have to basically not get a win in that point. Because if they're still alive to some degree, the Bengals, they're not going to trade. They're going to keep that thing going. So they're just going to keep it going, keep everyone, and be like, maybe we could sneak in at 9-8 or 10-7 or something like that. I don't know how realistic it is. So I would say Trey Hendrickson, but more realistic, probably Haason Reddick. Now, the next two guys here, I guess we don't have to really. It's pretty obvious. Okay, if I gave you two names, this I'm not even going to ask because it's pretty obvious. Tre'Davion Clowney or Harold Landry. We would all say Landry, correct? We would all say Landry. Yeah. Again, you think the Titans are going to sell him, over maybe like a more realistic option like Jadeveon Clowney? That's really the biggest question. Like, Landry's good. He's just
Landry's like 3 years younger too, coming off, like back-to-back 10-sack seasons too. So you probably would have to give up more than him. But I think obviously you would take him over Jadeveon Clowney. That's
the only thing. Better player, but more realistic. I would probably say Jadeveon Clowney.
Yeah,
that'd probably be the thing.
I mean, I couldn't imagine Harold Landry costing that much though, because in Tennessee right now, like they should just blow that thing up. I know they just got Brian Callahan, but I think he just needs to clear that whole roster out, and Terrell Williams would know exactly what to do with Harold Landry. So I think even if Harold Landry is a little bit more unrealistic, which I think at this point where Tennessee's at, they have no hope of winning the AFC South. They just lost to the Colts this weekend, so even there's places at second, their chance at second place is pretty much out the window there. The Titans don't have anything going for them. Just blow it up. That's a player that you can probably get like a third or fourth round pick for. And at this point, outside of their secondary, they could use that anywhere outside of defensive tackle.
I see Mike Reed says, what about Cam Jordan? That's another guy. I just don't think the Saints would ever trade. What do you guys think? Unless he forces his way out. He seems like a Saint for life kind of guy. I don't know.
Yeah, I would agree.
But every player has a price. Aaron Glenn, do you think that Cam Jordan would be upset about leaving New Orleans to go to play football in Detroit? I don't know. I think if there was a place where he'd probably prefer to go, it probably would be Detroit. I think I'd have to look at his contract. I'm pretty sure he has a year or two left on his contract. But Cam Jordan kind of not as good as Mac, but he's still got it, and he's good against the run and the pass, and he's a guy that will help develop that front seven. He has chemistry with Alex Anzalone, so they know how to play together. I think that would be a great option in Detroit for Cam Jordan. But to the Saints, I mean, that's like the dude on the Saints right now. Like, that's when you think of the New Orleans Saints, you think of Alvin Kamara and Cam Jordan. So that's a stretch that the Saints would let him go.
Did you guys see the clip that we posted on our social media? But it was originally from Pat McAfee, and it was J.J. Watt. Them trying to Pat's trying to tease him to come out of retirement to play for the Lions, and he was like, he kept being like, I do love the Lions, I do love what they're doing, I do, and he was obviously probably keep feeding into it a little bit, and then he's like, but I'm happy with retirement. By the way, that man, I want to say this in the most respectful manner, okay, and I mean this. I'm just going to say this in the most respectful way possible. J.J. Watt, if he came out of retirement right now, that would be a good comparison would be Adrian Peterson in my eyes. Is that
No, AP was good until he retired. AP was still putting up 180
He was still getting touchdowns.
Would that not be an Adrian Peterson-esque move where he comes in, you're like JJ Watt, but he's not
still good. JJ Watt would be like a John Kaminsky out there at this point, and I'm sorry, he would just.
He would last 3 games and get injured.
He would and again, I know it's a haul. He would have the impact of Tyson Alualu. He'd have a sack, and you'd see it all over social media. JJ Watt, first sack as a Detroit line. No, JJ Watt, Hall of Famer, first ballot Hall of Famer, all time defensive end.
Without a doubt.
Just keep that resume the way it is. You don't need to break it.
No. I mean, okay. Look at he did have 12 and a half sacks in Arizona in 2022, but he's 2 years removed from the sport. Could he come and get you And I see Nick say JJ would wreck havoc. I just don't. He's number one is not happening. Okay, I just want to make that very clear. It's not happening. I will say your Tyson Alualu's a little aggressive. That dude was basically just a body. Okay, that's what he was. But he was a body.
Multiple. You're telling me JJ Watt wouldn't if JJ Watt was able to stay on the field for all 3 downs? Absolutely. JJ Watt ain't staying on the field for all 3 downs.
No,
Are you kidding me? That's
the
guy you bring in on 3rd and short in the red zone. JJ Watt would not have more than 3 sacks if he came out of retirement right now. And that's not disrespect to JJ Watt. That's what's happening when you leave the game of football, the NFL, for 2 years.
I think he would be. I think he would be fine, good. I just think you're 2 years removed from playing football. I think it's. And by the way, Nick says, the disrespect is real. I think JJ Watt would be good. It's not realistic. Okay, it's not going to happen. He's not going to unretire to come to the Lions. And if he comes here, it'd be nice if you could pair JJ Watt with Aiden Hutchinson. But without Aiden, you're having JJ Watt on this team. What are you asking of him? How many snaps do you expect him to play? You probably don't need him to play a lot. Probably just play him on 3rd down. And he could probably get you some pretty productive numbers. But it's just not happening. He clarified that on McAfee show today. So I just wanted to talk about that. Zero chance.
He's listening to us.
Zero chance.
Hopefully he's listening to us slander him right now, and uses that as bait and comes back and proves us all
AJ
wrong.
would probably tell you the same thing. Guys, he almost he had heart issues. He was literally it's not even like a shot at. He was having health issues. He would not be on the field all the time. He was having heart issues. He left the game because he's yeah, I can't keep doing this. No.
Yeah. He says he enjoys
stay healthy. Keep everything that you do. You look great in the broadcast booth. You sound great on the games. Keep doing what you're doing. Don't need to come play football again.
And Diggity Dog says it's not happening, of course, but the disrespect is filthy. I don't know what the disrespect is. I mean, do you think
retired?
Would JJ Watt be a starter or a rotational piece on this Detroit Lions team?
Yeah.
No, I'm asking which one would he most likely be?
Right now, given what they have on the edge, he would start. Given
you think JJ Watt could start a full game right now and be
full is a little aggressive. Full maybe, but he would play.
JJ Watt would be a situational type of player.
Yeah,
and my point is situationally, it does not move the needle whatsoever. You need a guy that can actually play the game for all 3 downs, in my opinion, if you want to go compete for a Super Bowl. JJ Watt is not that player.
Yeah, not now. Not right now.
Absolutely. In the past, oh my God, he's probably one of the top 3-4 best defensive players I've ever seen, but he's not that player.
Yeah, I see. So I'm going to get to some people here. I see no. Nick says yes in terms of starting. Andrew says JJ would absolutely start on the current team. I think he would, but I don't think he'd be I don't think he'd play as nearly as many snaps as some of the good, elite edge rushers or even good edge. He'd be a guy, like you said, you'd play kind of in spots. But I don't want him to sound like he's James Houston, but a little better than that.
He'd be if Calais Campbell were if Calais Campbell were to stop playing for a year, because JJ's been off for 2 years, but Calais Campbell a little bit older, but still a little bit better shape. That's what it'd be like. Calais Campbell right now would not start for the Detroit Lions because he can't get after the quarterback. He's great against the run, but he can't get after the quarterback, and he's still been in the league. JJ Watt, much better player, but I'm saying Calais Campbell has still been in the league, and that's a guy that people are calling for at the trade deadline, signing late in the offseason, but nobody's go get Calais, bring him home. No, it's Calais would be nice to have on the team. JJ Watt, as far as that, it's too much to potentially happen.
Yeah, I'm with Andrew Jones. He's not playing 50 snaps, but he would start though. It's not happening though. Lions are going to continue to be aggressive. I think the Haason Reddick news was huge today. I'm curious moving forward. I've seen some outlets report on the Lions maybe calling for Zadarius Smith. I don't know how true some of these outlets that are reporting it are. I'm not going to sit here and act like it's legit. There's a lot of things that come out during this time that aren't true. But what I will say is, and I said this yesterday, just bring in help. We need reinforcements, and any of those guys are going to help that. Haason would probably be the best out of the available, but he's just got so many question marks. And if Brad feels like, hey, we can overcome it, go ahead and do it. I have no issue with it at all. Now, guys like Max Crosby, Myles Garrett. I see someone in the chat ask about Myles Garrett. Like, that's off the table. They're not trading him. I just don't see it. 40 Phenom says, would you give up 2 first-round picks for Garrett? I would, but are they doing it? No. Yeah, so I just no. Ronald says, I'm glad you're not a GM guy. We'll lose every game. Shout out, Ronald. Yeah. Hey, just because we said J.J. Watt isn't what he used to be. But, again, it's going to be interesting to see. We'll be covering it all. Guys, before the doc joins in about 15 minutes, I did want to talk a little bit about the Lions and Vikings game. I'm going to pull up a graphic here, and I can go through some of the guys that I think will have an impact this week because I do this weekly. Jeff's impact players, Iafrate's impact players. And this week, I have a special lineup of guys that I think will make an impact this week for the Detroit Lions. And I'll tell you one thing, Aiden Hutchinson's injury did change some things, okay? Made it important for other guys to have to step up. And one of those guys is a guy they just extended, okay? That player is Aleem McNeil. I think he's right in the middle there. Aleem McNeil this week has to not only step up, but continue to play at the level he's playing at right now. He just had 2 sacks against Dallas. He wrecked that game. He's got to continue to do it. I know it's going to be harder without Aiden Hutchinson, but the reality is Aleem McNeil is going to have to be an impact player this week, a significant impact player, to be honest with you. The first player I have on here, I want to get to Aleem first because he's probably one of the bigger pieces here. Amon-Ra St. Brown. Last 2 games against the Vikings, he's had over 100 yards. He's coming off a quiet game. I don't want to say a bad game because he just wasn't targeted. He caught everything he was throwing. I mean, every ball that was thrown at him, he caught. But he just didn't get a huge volume. They talked about it on the podcast today. Like, his EQ is like, did I see your mouth? Did I see you mouth it correctly? Like, give me the fucking ball. Did you say that? And he's like, oh, no, I didn't say that. Like, because on the broadcast, apparently, it caught him saying, give me the fucking ball. So, obviously, Amon-Ra wants the ball. I understand that. And as he should want the ball and as he should get the ball. I mean, he should be a huge player this week against the Vikings specifically because he's given Brian Flores problems, but also based on the fact that he's been a little quiet last week. Let me get this so you guys can more. Let me do this. Okay. Let me just move this out the way too. So Amon-Ra St. Brown, big impact this week, I do believe. The last player I have on this list is Brian Branch. And the reason why I have Brian Branch on this list is, yes, he's coming off a massive game, 2 interceptions, forced fumble, pass deflections. Yeah. Okay. He's played extremely well against the Cowboys. But this week, without Aiden Hutchinson, I see AG finding more different ways to send DBs after the quarterback. One of those guys you can send without Iffy is Brian Branch, because Iffy Melifonwu usually does a good job of that, but he is on IR. Brian Branch will be the next one. He's going to be a guy that can get in the backfield. He can take the ball away in so many different ways, force fumbles, punch outs, or he can just go get an interception and just confuse the quarterback, which he did against Dak in the red zone there. So Brian Branch, Aleem McNeil, and Amon-Ra St. Brown are 3 guys that you have to watch this week against the Vikings that I think will make a significant impact. They're going to be very important players, 2 defensive, 1 offensive. If you're going to face this Vikings team that's undefeated on the road, you're going to need these 3 guys to have a massive game, in my eyes. And they are guys that I think will have a massive game. But that is my list. Your guys' thoughts on that list?
I mean, I agree with all of them. If I had to pick one that I agree with most, I think it's part of, like, as Lions fans, we have to face the fact, knowing Hutchinson, Sam Darnold's going to have time. Whether Aleem McNeil is making plays out there or not, Sam Darnold's going to have time. And he's got great players to throw to. Jordan Addison, Aaron Jones, or Justin Jefferson, obviously. So a guy that's going to have to be playing a lot over Justin Jefferson, if it's not Kirby Joseph, is Brian Branch. And when those players do catch the ball, how do you limit more big plays? You have to be a tackler in the open field to make the tackle. That's what Brian Branch has done best. He shows a little bit of spurts throughout the season of missing tackles. But if he eliminates that, he forced a fumble, had 2 interceptions last week. If you're able to just force 1 fumble or get 1 interception, that's huge against this Minnesota Vikings team, because I think they rely on momentum a lot. If you look at the first half compared to second half of games, in the second half, they give up a lot more points than they do in that first half. So Brian Branch in the secondary can help get a surge on this defense with no Aiden Hutchinson. I think that's huge, because right now I think the strength of the team is the secondary. And when you look at it, it's crazy to say, but specifically in the safety room, and the best player there is Brian Branch. No Aiden Hutchinson. Brian Branch is your best defensive player. So I think he's got to step up the most this week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I like the Ali McNeil one. Obviously, like Lucas said, you're going to need someone to step up on this defensive line and get to the quarterback, cause pressure, take a double team or two. And I think that will be Ali McNeil. Brian Branch, obviously, after the game he had last week, what type of impact he's going to make. And with the wide receiver core and Sam Darnold really spreading the ball around and that offense hitting at all angles, what Brian Branch can do. He can step up anywhere. He can get to the quarterback. He can make interceptions. He can cause forced fumbles. He can do it all. I would put another one, Carlton Davis, with another big matchup this week. He's been facing crazy wide receivers to start the season. And then obviously Amon-Ra St. Brown obviously did put up the yards he wanted to last game after his big heated matchup with Jordan Lewis. But I think he's going to bounce back, and I think there's going to be a lot of points scored in this game. So when the offenses are going back and forth, I think Amon-Ra is going to be a focal point, and you're going to see one of those Amon-Ra St. Brown 100-yard gains and him possibly getting in the end zone.
Yeah, he's going to be the chain. He's got to be the chain mover this week, big time. And not that they need him, but he's just the guy that comes in, shows up in the biggest games. So this week he's going to be someone to watch. Let's bring in Boone here. Boone's waiting. And we'll get Boone's thoughts. He wasn't a fan of the J.J. Watt, quote unquote, slander. So let's get Boone in here. Please welcome.
What's up, guys?
Hey, Boone, how you doing?
Hey, I'm feeling great. I apologize. Sometimes life throws life throws some things at you, and you have to handle some things. So that's all that's going on here. Listen, I will be one with the chat here. Klotzy, with the J.J. Watt thing. Listen, it's not the fact that you're like J.J. Watt can't do what he did before. It's the way that you like. This is one of the best ever. Yeah, he has been out for 2 years. If you pay attention to anything, J.J. Watt's been very, very vocal that he said for the next couple of years outside of me retiring, one, I will stay in game shape. Two, he has spoken with the Texans multiple times saying, if you need me, only if you need me, you can call me and I will be in game shape consistently. And three, Klotzy, if you're going to say outrageous stuff, think before you say it. Don't ever compare a J.J. Watt to Tyson Alualu, one sack ever again. That's where I start to turn. Now, if you want to say hold on, let me finish. You got your time. Now, if you want to say maybe he comes in and only gets 4 or 5 sacks and he doesn't give you the 10 that you think, do not compare that man saying the disrespect of coming in, saying Tyson Alualu, 1 sack, J.J. Watt. That man is in game shape. He has mentioned it multiple times over the last year. He is ready to go. Yeah, you might not get 15 sack J.J. Watt. That man retired when he was still good. He retired off a 12-sack season. I don't care. Like, you're sitting here being like, well, Adrian Peterson retired and he was still getting tough. No, J.J. literally retired off a 12-sack season, and he probably could have done better, and I'm sure he missed games that season too. So, like, JJ comes in, you're not getting the Max Crosby type JJ Watt or Haason Reddick JJ Watt, but it's the same conversation we had yesterday, Klotzy, when you said, I don't know about Zadarius Smith because he's not Max Crosby. I'm still talking over here. I'm still talking right now. I'm talking.
Out of your mouth,
my turn.
I have been, even in the offseason before I have been for Zadarius Smith.
But I'm saying yesterday. No, you're not. Let me finish. Now this is where you're not. Yesterday when and Jeff agreed with me. Yesterday you were saying I don't know about Zadarius because you need someone to make an impact. I'm talking about if you patch up this team. Say you go get Zadarius Smith and then you call J.J. Watt and say, hey, I'll take a vet minimum and come in and get us 4 or 5 sacks and produce. You don't have to play a lot. We only need you for a little bit. Why would you say no? But to compare that man to Tyson Alualu type of signing, I don't even know if Tyson Alualu, he might have sat out for 2 seasons and came in and got 1 sack. What are we doing here?
One player in NFL history who's ever stopped playing football for 2 years.
We're talking about J.J. Watt here.
So let's. How many Hall of Famers have ever come out after? 2
It doesn't matter. I don't care how many people have done it. I do not care. Things happen all the time. Hey, things in sports. Guess what? There's these things that are called like records. Like things happen all the time that have never happened. That happens. Now, I'm not sitting up here saying we need to go get J.J. Watt. I just thought it was very disrespectful for you to say Tyson Alualu. If J.J. Watt came back, that man would be way better than Tyson Alualu.
J.J. Watt.
I'm just saying you need to start. You need to think before you say Tyson Alualu.
No, I don't, because I have.
Yeah, you do. That's the worst. That might be the worst comparison that has ever been on this show. Tyson Alualu to J.J. Watt.
Because Tyson Alualu is
the worst.
arterial fibrillation, which is why
The
JJ Watt retired.
worst.
It's with your heart. JJ Watt would not be
Tyson
on the field for more
Alualu
than
to
25
JJ Watt
days.
is the worst comparison of all time.
Their roles would be very so. JJ Watt's the better player.
One
but
sack.
as far as their production, be pretty much spot on.
That's crazy.
Really?
That is crazy. You know what? No, I almost. I'm done. Let's stop this because I'm going to get disrespectful. I have to take a step back. I will.
Klotzy, what were you going to say?
Say it.
Go ahead, Klotzy.
Say it.
You can finish.
No, say it, Boone.
I'm not going down this turn lane here.
It's okay. I'm
The Alualu, I don't care anything about JJ Watt, but when I heard he was just going to come in and do like if he did, Tyson Alualu 1 sack, like that is crazy.
Would you rather me say Bruce Irvin or another role player that Brad Jones is signed in the middle of the season?
These guys that you're saying are guys who sat on the couch for a whole year as well, and you're saying JJ Watt
sitting on it for 2 with a heart issue.
Oh my gosh, Klotz! This man has said that he's stayed in game shape, and if the Texans need him, he would be ready.
Staying in game shape is great. So is Colin Kaepernick. Okay,
oh my gosh.
When you
if
talk
he had
about leaving the NFL,
he had a heart issue. He wouldn't leave the door open for an NFL return if he had that bad of a heart issue. He could
leave the door open. That doesn't mean he's going to come and just be some 4 or 5 sack player.
But he's not going to be Bruce Irvin and Tyson Alualu, dude.
They both made a sack.
This is the worst take you've ever had. And the people too, like Adam in the chat. Listen, I'm not banging the table for JJ Watt. Give me Zadarius Smith. Give me Haason Reddick. Give me someone else. But just to me, when you guys have the conversation, let's not be idiotic and call Tyson Alualu JJ Watt. That's crazy.
Said the impact would be the same.
That would not. That's crazy. That is crazy.
It is.
I legit.
Hey, hold on.
This is almost worse than you having the Chiefs at 8th in the power ranking.
No, they were at 7th and now they're at 4th.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
Hold on.
7-4.
Let me just, I'll just say this. What we were talking about earlier.
I'm going to have a heart issue soon doing a show with this guy, man.
Just get off your knees for JJ Watt for a second.
I don't care about JJ Watt. I'm honest. I say like things that are honest. Saying that he would have the same production as Bruce Irvin is nuts, dude.
When JJ Watt comes to the Lions,
Jeff, let's get to the next. Where's the doc at?
Same exercise. Booner,
2 minutes.
JJ Watt at the Lions, starter or role player?
I mean, on this Lions team right now, probably is getting starting. He's probably the first guy out there.
How many snaps do you think JJ?
The snaps don't matter, dude. You're not getting Aiden Hutchinson snaps out of JJ Watt.
I'm not asking.
He's older. You're going to get limited snaps. This has nothing to do with. This has literally nothing to do with your production conversation. Nothing.
It does. It really does. So
he's going to have more than one. If he came back, he would have more than 1 sack in a full season.
I'll give him 2.
Oh, no. Okay.
I mean, I can't be the only one on this show that thinks this is ridiculous, like crazy.
No. Hold on. So this is, and we talked about it earlier. We all agree it's not happening. There's no chance, unless you think there's a chance. Booner, I didn't get your opinion on that. There's no chance JJ Watt comes out of retirement. All right. So that's already on the table. So it's not happening. Now, do I think he'll get if you give Tyson Alualu and JJ Watt the same amount of snaps? Do I think JJ Watt would be more productive? Yes, I do. I do think. But like, what are we getting? Double-digit sacks, or even like no, you're not getting anything close to that. But he will be Tyson. Maybe you could say Bruce Irvin because he's an edge. He would do better than both those guys. You know what I mean? He just 2 sacks is kind of wild.
It doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter who it is. If you sit on the couch for 2 years and then you return mid-season to guys who have been playing for 8, 9, 10 weeks, you are not going to be at the same speed. Let alone you got to compete with the guys that are already there.
This guy doesn't listen to anything I say.
Starts over Josh Pascal.
No,
he does not. No, he does not.
Hey, Boone,
great rotation.
I don't even. Klotz, it's over.
In the playoffs, in the red zone.
Yeah.
We're done with the JJ Watt.
Maybe throw him a little touchdown pass, huh? Throw JJ Watt a little touchdown pass.
I hope this man comes back on a different team or I don't know, and just dominates, just so Klotz can just
you know why
right in his face.
He's not, because he's been out of retirement for 2 years with a heart issue.
Dude, you don't know. This is unbelievable. This is unbelievable.
Okay,
this is one of the worst things.
Before John joins, we talked about Haason Reddick earlier. Lions inquired about him. Your quick thoughts before we get Doc on. I never got to.
I'm fired up about JJ Watt right now. What do you want me? I don't know how to.
We spent way too long on someone who's never coming out of retirement. That was
it's unbelievable. I mean, I just don't know. And it's like I'm not like saying that we need to bring JJ Watt in. It's like the conversation of like if a guy like JJ Watt who says I'm going to step away at almost the top of my game with 12 sacks, and because I might have a hard.
Still talking about JJ Watt. I mean, Haason Reddick. Come on.
I mean, Doc's going to join the show in like 30 seconds. I have more than 30 seconds to spend on Haason Reddick. I have 5 minutes I could talk about Haason Reddick and these guys. I'm not going to do it now. I just the JJ Watt thing. I mean, I can't believe this.
I mean, I'm sorry, Boone. Reality hits
Dude,
hard
you could be
sometimes.
like
When
3 or 4
reality hits
sacks.
home, it's not
You could be
always
like,
rosy.
no, it's not reality. It's just that you're just wrong. Like JJ Watt would have 3 or 4 sacks if he
You
played
see
an
it
NFL
that way,
season.
I see it another. It's
One
fine.
sack is disrespectful. Like you just like that's just. I mean, it's nuts.
I didn't expect you to be this fired up about JJ Watt, man.
Dude, I don't even care. Like, I don't even care about bringing JJ in. It's just saying that JJ Watt, if he came back after a 12-sack season, I don't care if he sat for 2 years. He's been very public for 2 years saying, I am in game shape. And he was like, I'm ready to go if someone calls me and if the Texans ever need me. He has said it 100 times over the last 2 years. And you're telling me, Klotz is like, well, he's been sitting on the couch. We're talking about one of the best athletes, not just in the NFL, of all time. A guy like a specimen. We've never seen almost a guy like JJ Watt. And if he's coming out and saying, I am in game shape, I have been in game shape, like Tyson Aluwalu, you're taking Tyson Aluwalu out sitting on the couch for a year over a 2-year JJ Watt? Buddy, what are we doing here? What are we doing here?
Bobby
Woo woo. Bring him on.
I can't listen to your. When you start talking football, I'm muting my headphones going forward. I'm not doing this.
That's fine. Be a lot of
It's
knowledge
unbelievable.
going on.
First, it's the Chiefs
Lot
at
of
8 or 7, and now it's Tyson Aluwalu is better than JJ Watt.
Levis type train leader.
Oh, you're talking about what? Okay, it's CJ Stroud guy. What are we talking about here? We can really start pulling out some things.
Hey, that's fine.
Dude, why? Okay, out of all things to get this word.
Oh wow! Hey, hang your hat on the one.
No, there's a couple. It's just
Bobby Woo.
Yeah, you can tell. Now they're getting personal. Now they're up.
No, I'm not getting personal. I love Klotz.
No, you're up.
Hey, sometimes some shots have to get thrown a little bit.
Hey,
You know,
Oh man.
gotta exchange a few. Hey, that was Tyson. That was Tyson and whoever Tyson fought, the Muhammad Ali or something. That was what we just did there.
No, that's
Klotz, fist pump right here.
Tyson Fury. Yeah, okay. What? Yeah, we got Wilder.
Well, no,
All right,
it was like McGregor Mayweather.
All right, let's bring in John Maakaron. I know he's always in game shape. Okay, John Macaron's always in game shape. The Doc's always in game shape.
Doc's better than Tyson Aluwalu.
I would love to get Doc's opinion on all this BS too. Please welcome in the man behind Sports Illustrated Zone with Detroit Lions content filled. Check it out. Link will be in the description. You can check out all his content. He's been covering, doing a great job. He's sending me articles minutes after the news comes out. Like these guys quick. You can check his stuff out and check out his podcast, Detroit Sports Podcast. And as always, this is brought to you guys by BetUS. Please welcome in Mr. John Maakaron, aka the Doc. What up, John? How you doing?
Fellas, I survived Dallas. Booner, calm the fuck down, bro. We're just talking roster. Everybody's got the opinion. They're allowed to share it.
Yeah, unless it's just like a ridiculous opinion, Doc. I've seen you call some people out. Sometimes people have to be called out.
calm down,
No,
Booner.
listen, man. Dallas was a great experience all the way through, man, but it was bittersweet. It was one of the wildest experiences, top to bottom, the weekend. And let me just say this. Jerry Jones spared no expense at AT&T Stadium. He treats the media like gold. I felt like a VIP, and I'm going to declare that I'm going to file a paternity test. There's got to be a way that Jerry Jones is my dad. There's got to be a way that I'm going to get some of that inheritance because that stadium, that experience, the media room was spectacular. And it was crazy, too, because it was the most fun I was having working until the injury happened. And that's what sparked now. To me, it's been like fast forward all the way into the deadline, and the deadline's not until the 10th, I think, of November. And now it's like full on. What are the Lions going to do? And that's what we're going to probably talk about is that where are the Lions at with this? But it was a crazy experience. It was bittersweet. But Jerry Jones, man, it was the best experience working in the media, being at his crib. He literally treats you like family, and it was unbelievable, top to bottom. I stayed 3.5 hours extra after the game, working, writing, and starting the process of looking at how to replace Aiden Hutchinson. But it was unbelievable to be part of that when it was all going down. It was just the first thought I had was the season's over. That was the first thought I had. And it was just sad. I tried my best to not be that way, but I was totally bummed out. It was just like the 49ers game, the highest of highs, eating, enjoying myself, walking around, and then just feeling the ultimate devastation, feeling like, man, the dream that we could have experienced with the Detroit Lions might have ended.
Well, Doc, we have a lot to get to today. It's a perfect day. Always a good time talking to Doc on Wednesdays. I want to ask you, yesterday the news broke right before our show. Alim McNeill extended massive contract, Doc, after a big game. He had 2 sacks, had his best game of the year, at least by the numbers. What do you make of the contract and them just believing in Alim McNeill and being one of the guys in that 2021 draft class that another guy they felt the need to extend long term? What do you make of the deal and him being a top paid defensive tackle?
Yeah, no doubt. Look, it's pretty clear, guys. The Detroit Lions don't care about timing. They don't care about when these contracts are going to be announced. David Montgomery's was announced while I'm there. It was crazy because I had decided to meet up with Dave Burkett of the Free Press and go to a Lions fan event. It was so fun. The fans were fired up. They were talking about the game and beating the Cowboys and hoping nothing crazy happens at Jerry's World. And then as we're walking up, the news breaks that David Montgomery has a contract signed. I'm like, what the heck? So you got to fire that up, talk to Christian and consult, talk to agents and all that, learn about the information. It was just wild. And Dave is back there trying to write as fast as humanly possible before he signed books. So it literally was a prime example of the NFL cycle never, ever stops. And then you get the news that Alim McNeill is also now in the mix. And look, the one thing about the Lions is they're pretty transparent. Brad Holmes publicly stated, look, we probably got to get to Alim next. And they got to the numbers. And I just think that you look at it from the perspective of what he brings to the table. The 2021 draft class is one in which it set the foundation, the pillar of the defensive line, and clearly playing alongside DJ Reader has brought, at least from what you saw against the Cowboys, has brought a player that can now take off. DJ Reader is such a big help to this defensive line, and Alim McNeill ate, and he feasted all over the Dallas Cowboys offensive line, and it was great to see. And now that he's comfortable, he got paid, he secured the bag. I expect big things because the Lions are going to have to unfortunately count on him. And I wanted to ask, but I did. There's one of those times where you didn't know how to ask that question, but I wanted to ask, like, do you think about it? Like, do you watch that you leg whipped and you leg whipped your teammate and it accidentally caused a broken leg and all that? But, clearly, after the game, everybody was talking about the injury and what the impact was. But this football team has to quickly rebound and move forward. And Alim McNeill's got to be part of it. They're going on the road to Minnesota, and he's got to be a big part of stopping the run and getting to Sam Darnold, because if he has poor performances, that's going to make things so much more challenging for that defensive line.
Yeah, Doc, I mean, the elephant in the room, you mentioned a little bit, you stayed after about the whole Aiden Hutchinson stuff. And obviously that's a brutal injury. It was probably just gut-wrenching for all the Detroit Lions fans, for probably all the everyone within the organization. What is your kind of viewpoint on this next step here? Because we've had the conversation the last few days on the show. There's like a couple routes. Obviously, they could go with what they have in the building. They could try, and the second route is you can patch it up with maybe a couple different guys, Zadarius Smith, some like kind of mid-level guys, or you can go all in and go get these big names that everyone's talking about. How do you see, like, with this Hutch injury, the impact of the defensive line now? How are they going to patch this up? What is your mindset on that? And what have you kind of heard of being in the building? I saw you tweet out some eye emojis. Like, do you know something we don't know here, Doc? What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, look, that was fun. That was just to really kind of highlight the Haason Reddick story that came out. Look, I'm going to give you guys my kind of analysis of what I've known from the Lions and based on my speculation, really the most informed that I can give you. Clearly, they're going to keep their what their intentions are tightly close to the vest, because clearly, if they're making calls right now, the asking price for a Max Crosby, for a Zadarius Smith, for Myles Garrett, the teams are going to want to try to maximize the value. So that's why the Lions didn't go right out 24 hours later and make the splash the next day, because they're trying to also make sure that they don't give up too much capital, because that's the biggest strength that Brad Holmes clearly has, is his ability to draft. And unfortunately, the one thing that you can kind of criticize is that they did trade a third rounder to the Jets to get Broderick Martin. That could come back to potentially, the picks of Hendon Hooker and Broderick Martin could come back if the Lions don't end up ever meeting their Super Bowl goals. You could have had 2 more defensive players there instead of projects. So that's just down the road to pay attention to, because look, Devontae Adams, players that are getting traded, Amari Cooper, kind of the picks that the most popular pick that's getting traded is a 3rd round pick, and the Lions currently don't have one. So, I look at it from the perspective of they went out and clearly because of Pecco's injury, they signed Isaiah Thomas. I had a chance to talk to him, and I'll share some insights there. But to me, I just don't, it's the dream scenario, of course, everybody. And, to me, I love the fact that the Lions fans are like, do whatever it takes to get Max Crosby. You call nonstop. You blow up the Davis's phone until he says, I'm blocking you. Stop calling me about Max Crosby. Guys, unfortunately, the only way, and this is what you guys should do, and I'm saying it now, and I don't mind saying it. Everybody listening here, the listening audience that listens tomorrow, the only way Max Crosby comes here is if he goes to the Raiders and says, get me out of here publicly. So you guys, if you want Max Crosby, you got to tag him. You got to go on social media and say, come home. Tag Max Crosby and let him know, come to a winner. Come to Detroit. That's the only way, because no organization is going to trade their best player. It's the worst thing possible. So the only way that it happens is you fans just pounding it, and making sure that you let him know, come home, you're wanted here. And if the Raiders, and you have to keep rooting for the Raiders to lose. You have to root for blowout losses for the Raiders. You got to root for the most uncomfortable position for him to just sit back and go, you know what? Fuck this. I need to go somewhere else. And the place he'll end up going is the Lions. So that's all you got to do, is just that's what you can control, is tag Max Crosby and tell him, come home, come to Detroit. Because I don't see it happening. Same with Myles Garrett. I think it's tough because it's hard to sell to the fan base that you're selling. So to me, I think that the high-end superstar player probably not coming. Maybe Haason Reddick will kind of back down in terms of his contract demands. I think that, the motivations there that would check the box that the Lions probably would see is that, look, if he comes in on a 1-year deal, finishes out the year, and is able to be motivated to be able to potentially work toward a bigger deal, maybe you take the chance on Haason Reddick. But right now, by all accounts, when they do their research, I'm probably going to assume they're going to find out he's probably not the best fit. I mean, you go somewhere and you basically hold up a team. That's not really the best culture fit. It's not the most team-friendly kind of behavior. So to me, in speaking with Isaiah Thomas, the way in which, and I invite you guys, please, it took me an hour and a half to transcribe it. It took me moments to get it up to the podcast. I have it on the audio as well. Go check out my question to Isaiah Thomas about Trey Hendrickson. And if you read that, based on what he said in terms of how Trey Hendrickson practices, the familiarity with what the coaching staff of the Lions knows about Trey, with the way in which he produces, with the Bengals kind of slipping, the most realistic option to me is the odds-on favorite that will land in Detroit is Trey Hendrickson. I think that he fits all the boxes, super passionate, crazy in practice, is a guy with a high motor, and is very productive, and the Lions are familiar with him. It's like check. He checks all the boxes. And I probably think Isaiah Thomas was brought here as somebody to say, hey, tell us what you know about him. What has he taught you? What can you bring? What can he do? I do think Trey Hendrickson can be somebody that could come here and fit the mold and do some things. So I think that's what's going to happen. I think they're going to try their absolute best to make a move to add, and you never are going to replace Aiden Hutchinson. I know we keep saying that, but in all fairness, you're not going to replace the production. Aiden, guys, it's devastating. That it's so devastating. That's why I was sitting there just like this in Dallas going, of all the worst possible scenarios to happen, Aiden Hutchinson with 7.5 sacks was becoming dominant. He was becoming maybe the best defensive player in the NFL. To have his season go away just like that is devastating. But the blessing is he'll come back healthy, and I think he'll even be more motivated. So the blessing is his career is not going to be altered, and he's been through this before with the injury that he suffered in surgery at Michigan. So to me, the Lions are going to make a move. I think the move is for Trey Hendrickson, but at the same token, there's other guys out there. If the deal, because it takes two to tango, the Lions can call and ask and offer. If somebody else makes a better deal, then a trade doesn't happen. But I do think they're going to add somebody. They're going to have to, because clearly right now, and I'll share it. I've shared on the podcast. At this very moment, the Lions Super Bowl hopes are on life support. Every team that wins the Super Bowl has a stud defensive end and can get to the quarterback. If you lose two of them, guys, the Lions are not miracle workers here. It's the NFL. Yes, you saw the Tigers make a run, but it halted. The more talented team won in the Guardians. The Lions can have wins. They'll get to the postseason, but without a drastic move, without another defensive end that can pressure the quarterback and help out the secondary as well, I don't see the Lions win the Super Bowl. So I do think that you have to sell to the fan base. You're trying your absolute best, and you got to get somebody. And I'm hoping it's not another guy in the practice squad. You did that first. I understand it. Now you got to get somebody that can produce regularly and try to patchwork it with 5-6 people to try and replace Aiden Hutchinson. It's not as bad in terms of what's going to happen over the next few weeks, but if you project this to the Super Bowl, it would be devastating to the Lions if they don't add another defensive lineman. Devastating.
I'm with you, Doc. Spot on. And the one thing, because I don't think the Lions, in order to your point, to win the Super Bowl, I think you have to go out and get a legitimate dude. There's guys like Jadeveon Clowney to that tier who I think kind of help your status of maybe winning the NFC, if that. But to win the Super Bowl, you got to go in and get an elite guy. And you talk about Trey Hendrickson, who this whole show we've been vocal about it, love. But kind of your point, like you have to go out and get somebody. Haason Reddick, his whole thing is the culture issue. You know he's a great player. You can't deny his ability to play football. But if the Lions, Brad Holmes, go out and made a trade for Haason Reddick, do you, in your opinion, really think that he would be such a cancer in this locker room that would throw off the culture that's already here? Or would it be more likely that Haason Reddick falls into the culture and the environment that he's going into?
That's a great question, and one in which I respect highly. Real fast to the chat. If you want to go to Rainbow and Sunshine Land, then go ahead. It doesn't. I'm not going to sit here and blow smoke up your ass, okay? Because one, I'm going to tell you this. If you are not upset about Aiden Hutchinson, then you're pretty much disrespecting Aiden Hutchinson. I think that once you saw what he was doing, I think that if you're just going to sit here and be like, oh, the team can win without him, they don't need anything else, then you're completely disrespecting Aiden Hutchinson and what he brought to the table. And you can go take that lame ass shit somewhere else. It's not being negative. I'm saying I believe they're going to add. I believe that the front office sees what's going on and is going to see over the next couple of weeks that if you add not only on defense, but add more on offense, take advantage of what you have. This football team, when they do add, Brad Holmes is the guy I trust to add the right talent. The guy that he picks will come in. If it's Haason Reddick, if it's Trey, whoever it may be, I think will fit. So look, you can hear whatever you want, but listen, I'm not sunshine and rainbows. I don't need to be, because I don't live in denial land. I live in the reality of football. Okay, your football team has never won a Super Bowl before. So you can blow smoke up your own ass and figure that shit out. Now, to talk about Haason Reddick, I love the idea of dogs in the locker room. I believe that if you truly believe that you've established a culture, you can bring anybody into that locker room and the leaders will take care of it. Like, you don't want to be the odd man out. You don't want to be like one of these guys in the chat blowing smoke up people's butt. People are going to tell you, no, this is serious. You lost your best player. The locker room will control Haason Reddick, no problems. And if he doesn't get under control, the Lions will figure it out and not play him, or they'll handle it real quick. You think Haason Reddick's going to disrespect Aaron Glenn and disrespect Dan Campbell? Please, the locker room's been established. So to me, the Lions have a clear thing. They want locker room culture, productivity, price, the opportunity to fit in the locker room. If they bring Haason Reddick, the person that my trust level in Brad Holmes is all-time high. As long as he makes a move, as long as the player is a defensive lineman, that's great. And also, too, being that you see this offense, I want to add 3 players. I want to add a couple more tight ends. I want to add. You should always want more. Always. That's the way that you can relax and watch the playoffs without having a heart attack. Go out there and play. Could you imagine a 47-9 playoff win? That'd be spectacular. Instead of having to wait for Derek Barnes, a player of that caliber, to intercept the ball. We're all having heart attacks watching the game. Go out there and dominate. There's nothing wrong with adding talent. So to me, I'm fully in the trust Brad Holmes camp. He's going to make a move. He's going through all the scenarios, and he's got to also, you can't just be like the Jets and be desperate. You got to kind of relax, let everybody know. And at the same token, there's more evaluation to do. Who's to say that, it has, you just look with the Tigers. They gave some young guys some opportunities and they did some things. So I could agree with the decision to, hey, let's see how they play against the Vikings. If the Vikings are a team that runs the ball effectively and Sam Darnold torches you, then you go, okay, maybe we got to up the level of talent that we're looking at along the defensive line. But to me, I trust Brad Holmes. He's going to do what's right for this organization, and he's going to bring in some talent. But if they make, because currently they're evaluating, clearly they're calling around and they're asking, they're learning, they're figuring out with Drew Rosenhaus, okay, what's it going to take? Does he want a deal? Like, we're not going to trade for him and then have him do the same thing with the Jets. Like, hey, is he going to come in and want to play? Haason Reddick, I believe, would come in and contribute collectively with this defensive line. Anybody that they bring in that's being talked about, you could kind of make an argument for. But to me, the better the player, the bigger the name that we're talking about, Myles Garrett, Max Crosby, I would say even, hey, tag Myles Garrett too. Let's add 2 guys. Let's have fun. Let's have a report. Let's see if Crunch Time can get a report. Detroit is overwhelmingly tagging these guys on social media. Make them say, stop it. Make them go on McAfee and say, these guys from Crunch Time, the idiot cast from Crunch Time, won't stop tagging me. Tell him to come. And Booner, you started. Tag Max Crosby and tell him, come home. The Raiders aren't it. Detroit's it. So I trust Brad Holmes, and I think Haason Reddick would not act a clown here in Detroit.
What about another guy here, Doc? And we talked about him earlier. Not Myles Garrett, and he's not Aiden, but Zadarius Smith, someone that has some familiarity within the NFC North, and someone that I think you could probably get pretty cost-effective. Your thoughts on some of these other options besides the big names that we have to tag a million times, but Zadarius Smith with the Browns selling. What do you think?
Well, Zadarius Smith, I could see, but his sack totals aren't like tremendous. Like, it's not like, listen, when Dan Campbell said we're looking for a role player, that kind of, that pops the balloon. You know what I mean? You want some impact. You want somebody to come in and do some things. I think that collectively, as a team, fine. You could see the, a veteran come in and handle business, somebody that's familiar with everything going on in the division. But look, I'm looking at it from the perspective of the better the player, the better the options, the more calm I will be if you go about that business. There's a lot of good players. A name that people are talking about too, that if you watch the film, maybe you could get Josh Uche. I think could do a lot of good things as well. I think that there's a lot of good options out there. You can see all the lists of people that are talking, but I'm of the opinion that the Detroit Lions, when they survey the landscape, it's collective. And 2, schematically, you want to make sure it fits. I do think that the secondary, should give a lot of people hope in the short term, man. The back end has just been playing out of their minds. Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch are becoming all world right in front of our eyes. And you may shift towards, being more focused on the secondary and just, even more bend, don't break. But you still, listen, guys, just go back and look at playoff Super Bowl appearances and wins. A lot of them have stud top 10 defensive linemen. So to me, I look at it from the perspective of go out there and give yourself the best chance. This team can do it. Like if you look at that offense, oh my God, you can go out there. Even though a team is hurt, to still go out on the road and punish somebody and score 47 points. They can run the ball. The offensive line is stout enough to do a lot of different things. You're now tapping into the connection with Goff and Jameson Williams. You owe it to this team to give themselves the best chance at a defense. And guys, why would you advocate against adding talent? It's always, even with Aiden Hutchinson, I was going to advocate to add more talent, more. Always you are always one leg break away from needing more talent, needing depth. You can never have enough depth on a team. Never. And so I will always say add as much as possible, even at spots that you may not think are spots that you would add. So Darius Smith is intriguing, but not a name that I would be like, wow. And I don't think it moved the needle and make anybody that's panicking any more calm. I think that the picks that I just think that the three players that really kind of put you right back on track to say, okay, the Super Bowl dream is alive and well. Hendrickson, Myles Garrett, and Max Crosby, with Hendrickson being the most realistic option.
Doc, love everything you said there. I think the Lions win a Super Bowl without those three guys. Give me anyone else. Just give me someone. I am with you though. You had depth. So me and you, we do agree on that. I do want to ask though, the confidence level. You've been in the building the last few days there in Allen Park. And you did say, like, obviously the defense, like the safeties, the corners looked like they stepped up, the linebacking crew, everything else outside of the Hutch injury felt like things are starting to click defensively. And it's just that kind of that Hutch injury that deflated the defense, or, the Lions fans defensively. What are your confidence levels? Say they don't get a deal done. The trade deadline's 3 weeks away. Say they have to go through these next 2 or 3 weeks without getting a deal done in the way the defense just played versus Dallas. Are you confident? Like, does this defense feel like they're ready to go, especially like probably the biggest game of to date versus the 5-0 Minnesota Vikings team? Do you have confidence that they'll be able to figure this thing out and hold it down until maybe there is some reinforcements?
Nice 3-game stretch though, right? I do think that the Titans game presents the easiest opportunity to win, but then you're playing the Vikings and the Packers, as well. So it's a nice 3-game stretch to kind of evaluate fully. To me, like I said, let's give credit to Aiden Hutchinson and say, yeah, look at the impact that he had. Look at what he did for that defense. And look at the confidence level that he was able to bring. But yeah, the defense has a lot of talent. You still see the secondary is going to continue to grow with Carlton Davis and Terrion Arnold, who made that nice 4th down play. It seemed to me the officials kind of let him kind of get into a groove. There may be some calls that, other road games you might have seen thrown, but they didn't call it. So that was great. I thought that should give him confidence that he was able to make plays and had a good game. And it's always great. And also, too, guys, there is another strategy that I've said on the Lone Wolves podcast featured on NSI. I said, okay, if the opportunity does not present itself, okay, then go to the other side. Make the offense even more elite. Go make a splash on offense and make that offense so all world that you look at it and you say, okay, the other opponent has to fear getting 50 points dropped on them every single week. So to me, an impact move can also be on the offense would be great too, because if you saw what they were able to do with what they have, imagine giving Jared Goff another offensive toy, another receiver, another tight end, another running back, another offensive lineman for depth. To me, that's fine as well too. That offense was spectacular. And if this is what the beginning process of this offense looks like, and yes, we always have to kind of keep it in context that the Cowboys were battered without Micah Parsons, without Lawrence. And clearly they got some issues going on with playing at AT&T because they're vastly different home and on the road. But man, that offense looks special. And greatest show on turf could be coming about here if this football team starts to get rolling offensively consistently. Look out. Nobody could stop them. I mean, literally we're watching Jameson Williams and Jared Goff's connection grow week by week by week, where there's an explosive touchdown every week. That's not easy to accomplish. And now you're seeing angry runs from David Montgomery, and Jahmyr Gibbs is going to get better. So to me, I'm excited to see this 3-game stretch. I think the defense, you just need them to hold on. And the key you guys see, we've always talked about it. And Dan Campbell said before the game, if this defense punches the ball out, and you've seen the drills, I've shown you the punch out drills on our Twitter page, and they've taken it to the game. Brian Branch, the multiple turnovers, Kirby Joseph, man, that defense, as long as they stay tackling and handle business, that offense could put them in position to win games in the regular season. So this 3-game stretch is going to be key. We're all going to watch it. But when you talk about mano a mano in the playoffs, you got to remember, guys, and I'm just basically airing out what I've said on the podcast this week. Do you really want to go on the road and play the Commanders with what they got going on? Do you want to go on the road and play Tampa Bay? You don't want that. Remember, my mission was all the games in the playoffs at home. And that's an advantage that is clearly distinct. So I'm hoping that this game, listen, if they lose to the Vikings, I think people are going to panic even more and call for more trades. But you still got 2 games after that to evaluate. But I do think it's a big game to evaluate, this game against the Vikings. And I do think the defense clearly is going to be more focused in this contest because it's the Vikings. They got a good offense. And I do think the first game without Aiden Hutchinson, they want to show that they're legit.
Go ahead, Klotzy. Did you already?
Okay, yeah, I was just saying, my bad. I didn't know if it was Boone next. But when you look at that matchup, Doc, when you see Justin Jefferson, when you see Jordan Addison, and I'm not sure the status of Aaron Jones. You talk about the secondary and how they need to step up. What do you really expect? Because when you look at it, Minnesota's coming off a bye, and you have less time. What's your or he's going to have more time with no Aiden Hutchinson out there? Talk about Sam Darnold. What's your confidence level that they can hold up and not allow Justin Jefferson to go over 100 and Jordan Addison?
Yeah, it's going to be tough. Man, Justin Jefferson is developing that relationship with Sam Darnold, and I think Sam Darnold's in the right spot. To me, I like the strategy that the Lions have deployed. Again, they're going to give up yards. The Vikings are going to move the ball, put up yards, but the Lions are going to clamp down. I think that you saw that ridiculous stat that teams throwing into the end zone have only completed 1 pass. There's multiple turnovers. So they clamp down at the highest level. They are the true definition of bend, don't break. To me, the key is going to be offensively. Brian Flores is going to blitz the crap out of Jared Goff, and he's going to do it with 8, 9, 10 guys coming all over the place. Brian Flores is nasty. Okay, I am a close colleague with somebody that works for the Miami Dolphins SI site, and clearly Brian Flores didn't connect with the players, but now in a new situation in which he's kind of in a role that he's designed to be, which is a defensive coordinator, the man's nasty. The man is, listen, he's aiming for Jared Goff. He's got Goff in the crosshairs. So this game, the key is going to be for Jared Goff to make sure that his keys are read and he gets that ball out quick. If he doesn't, if Goff has a subpar game, there's going to be a problem. There's going to be a big problem because Brian Flores is hearing all the talk about, Ben Johnson's all world. Ben Johnson's the greatest thing on turf. He just saw the razzle dazzle. Oh, Ben Johnson's going to play that game? Watch this. And so they're coming, and they're coming from everywhere. And Jared Goff better be on point. This offense better be taking Brian Flores seriously because the man is ruthless and old school. And there could be some dollars flying around to take Goff out of this game. That serious. So to me, I'm looking forward to see
Are you saying there's we're not going to pass that, Doc?
The
talking about a bounty gate? Doc, that's not it. Like, whoa.
You don't think? Listen, guys, it's not going to be publicized. But look, these guys, Brian Flores is serious. So look, we're talking about the hyperbole to say to the degree in which he wants to shut up people talking about Ben Johnson. Brian Flores is sitting now watching film on how to design blitzes to get after Jared Goff. So this game is going to be serious for Jared Goff to handle himself. So this offensive line better bring
throughout the bounty gate.
Listen, this game, I'm seriously concerned about Jared Goff's health. If he survives this game, I'll be very happy.
Wow.
Because
where do you get your inside information from?
That's how serious Brian Flores is. He's a dog, and he wants to get after these. He wants to show that, hey, we're not just about Justin Jefferson. That defense has played very well. So we're using like football hyperbole here to say Jared Goff has to be on point this game. And I do think Ben Johnson is going to meet the challenge. This could be a very good football game. But at the same token, for the Detroit Lions defensively, it's just hold on. You know, it's you're on the road. You guys seen the struggles at times with the Lions going on the road in Minnesota in a division game. Whew, this one's going to be buckle up. This is the diaper game for Lions fans, and it's gonna swing in a lot of different ways. So I can't wait to see it. I'm not going. I'm going to watch from the comfort of my home, recover from Dallas. But this game's going to be serious. And the Vikings and this division, guys, you're seeing it, is now proven, just me talking to the other writers, this division could get 3 of 4 teams, maybe even 4, all in the playoffs. And that's wild to say. So you better handle everything correctly, or you're gonna have a tough time in Minnesota.
Just throwing out the bounty gate like that, Doc, casually. I feel like you know something that we don't know, and I don't know if I like it.
Hey, who's covering the Vikings Sports Illustrated?
What's going on? What do you know? Are you over there like you have a news article ready to go when this bounty gate stuff comes out?
No. There's no bounty gate. There's no official bounty gate. You guys know it's hyperbole. It's to the degree in the back room, they're fist bumping like, get Jared off. Like, to get Jared Goff away from this game. That's the mentality. And that's the mentality every defensive coordinator should have, because if you knock out Jared Goff, the Lions are done. They're done in an instant. So and they blitz at a high rate. They just Brian Flores is wildly aggressive, and he's going to do a bunch of different things. So let's see what happens, and I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see Jared Goff attack the Vikings defense. I can't wait to see it.
I'll clear it up for you, Doc. Legal issues just for our show here, just so we're not liable. No bounty gate. We're talking about they are going out there to take Jared Goff out.
Yes.
But there's no money involved. No money, no incentives. Just want to clear that up in case legally the NFL's watching us right now.
Exactly. The NFL bounty gate is not going to be broken by a podcaster in Detroit from the Vikings. Okay, come on.
Hey, Doc, I want to ask you this though, because over the last two games here, the 40-point games that the Lions have had, one player that's kind of came into his own, and it seems like he's starting to get a little bit more comfortable with Jared Goff and this offense is Tim Patrick. And it seems like he is now wide receiver 3. They're starting to use him a lot more. Ben, it looks like, loves to get him involved in the offense. What is the kind of vision there going forward, and what you see in Allen Park with Tim Patrick, and how confident are they with Jared Goff and kind of that 1-2 punch with those guys? What's the word I'm looking for? The kind of camaraderie that they have together.
Yeah, wasn't it great?
It was awesome.
I enjoyed speaking to Tim Patrick. He kept it serious with me. He was an individual that was just like, I didn't even like my game against the Seahawks. He's like, I think I'm playing slow. And I love the fact that he posted that he got his swagger back. People seem to get their swagger back after spending 10 minutes with the doc. It happens in my psychology practice. It happens on the football field. You never know. I spoke to Isaiah Thomas today. So maybe in his first game, if he debuts this week or next week, maybe he'll debut with 2 sacks and give everybody an indication that maybe he could be a solid replacement as well. Look, Tim Patrick, he's got a lot to prove too. Been injured. And I think that also too, guys, it's pretty clear the Lions went to the Broncos and found somebody that had at least a little bit of a foundational awareness of Dan Campbell's offense. So it's not going to take him all that much to adapt to some of the additions that Ben Johnson has made. And look, this offense, when you put in the work, when you do the homework, and you're a professional like Tim Patrick has been, and injuries just marred his development over the last couple of years, the guy can be a solid number 3 and do what he just did against the Dallas Cowboys. Nice 42-yard deep play that kind of got the momentum rolling. He's sure-handed and very reliable. And I think the blessing of what the Lions find in players, and that's why someone like me, who's also gritty and, feels like the underdog a lot of the time, these guys have a lot to prove. And Tim Patrick has a lot to prove to himself. Like, he had a decent game against the Seahawks, and he tells me directly, I don't like what I'm seeing on film. I don't like it. And he went to work to get his swagger back, and look what happened. So listen, that's a great recipe. And that's what Brett Holmes should get the ultimate credit for, is he finds football guys that are hungry and talented. And that mix is great. And so I just want to keep seeing it. I want to keep seeing Patrick, Jameson, and Amon-Ra, and then the development further of Laporta, who's going to get more and more touches. This offense is going to cook, and it's going to be great to see.
Doc, can I ask you an update, at least in your eyes? I know Dan kind of spoke about it today, but your confidence level that the Lions will have their important player, Carlton Davis, this week. I know you left with a concussion, kind of weird. His helmet came off. He's important. Do you think he plays this week?
Yeah. We talked to Dan Campbell on Wednesday, and Dan Campbell said that he would be surprised if Carlton Davis did not play. He did not practice on Wednesday. It was not due to the concussion. It was not due to that. And so we'll know more Thursday at Thursday's practice. But as of now, Dan Campbell said it should be all go for Carlton Davis. So unless something unforeseen happens, I would be surprised as well if Carlton Davis is not out there in a big game.
Sweet. Anyone got anything else before we let the Doc go? All right.
I put in the chat for some of the chat to drop some questions. They usually have some good questions for the Doc.
Yeah,
if we missed anything.
Doc versus the chat. Hey, Doc keeps it. Hey, Doc, that's why we love you. You come on.
Actually, I do have a question. I
will say this real fast.
Yeah,
for those like you can't listen. Teams and coaches are always trained to keep it positive. Like, just look at the slow-mo reaction of Dan Campbell. That was the realest moment. He's saying, oh, no, this can't be happening. You don't lose your best player and just have everything be hunky-dory. It doesn't work like that. Remember, now, if this was the Chiefs and this was a team that's perennially in the Super Bowl that just has done it before, then you could sit there and be positive about it. But no, I sat there and I was devastated. I tried to be like, okay, this is next man up. I tried to tell myself, okay, you got more work to do. But I was bummed out. And that's the way. And ask yourself, when you found out and you saw, if you went back and looked at the replays, why were you sad? You were upset because you realized for the Detroit Lions this season, their biggest goal is to win the Super Bowl. And when you take the best player out of the lineup, who could have potentially had 25 sacks or more and could have did it in the Super Bowl, it's devastating. It's devastating, but at the same token, you rebound and you move forward. And I do think that the Lions will add to this football team. They owe it to it. And I'm of the opinion, and I've said this before, so it's nothing new. I'm of the opinion I do not care about sustained success. Okay? The NFL is built to pay everybody now, and in 2-3 years, you deal with cap nightmares and you rebuild again. To me, just give the Lions fan base one. Give them their celebration.
Dynasty, Doc.
One before I die, and whatever happens for the next 40 years, I will not care. Just give me the one. That's it. And in the NFL, it's so tough to get the one. And you just were there. Like, literally, guys, the Lions were being talked about as the best team in football at halftime. They were playing like the best team in the National Football League. I was almost going to get in trouble for cheering in the press box. That's how good it was. And Jerry serves beer in the media room with 4 kegs. I'm like, this guy serves beer? And I'm like, okay, I did not drink at all. I was professional, but I rode the emotional roller coaster like everybody else. I was having the most fun out of anybody in that joint, watching the Detroit Lions kick Dallas's ass and have all the media talking about how great it was. And then when everybody was around and I found out, because I didn't know at first what happened, and they said it's Aiden. I just said, no, not Aiden Hutchinson. No. And then you go and you see the leg whip and the break, and you're like, it's done. His season's over. Like, I don't care what the family, all the other reports were like, you just saw his leg go like this. Like, he's not coming back this year. I don't care what the family says. I don't care what Dan Campbell says. Let the man heal for the next 6 months. It's a big loss. And to me, I think it's disrespectful to just say, next man up, wipe him away, cart him off, and get somebody else, and the Lions are going to win the Super Bowl. Come on. I think that you're allowed to be a little bit sad and pessimistic for this week. I mean, come on. It's only been 72 hours since the leg snapped in half in front of the whole world. I mean, you guys are great that can just say, Aiden's gone. We're winning the Super Bowl. Okay, good for you, because that is what we call in my field denial. And when you actually come out of denial, it hurts more than when you actually say it's a big loss. Let's see what happens in the future. So I just think that the Lions have a big test, and it will galvanize the team. I do think in the regular season, it's going to help get this team focused in the division too, because it's going to be tough, but it's a big loss. It's Aiden Hutchinson. It's Aiden Hutchinson. You just lost your best defensive player, and maybe even you just lost the best defensive player in the NFL. So good luck with the 24-hour hope squad. Okay, it doesn't work like that.
Hey, Doc, I do want to ask you this. I just want to settle and see where you're at on this. I'm not gonna give you any. I just want to see. I'm not gonna lean you one way or the other. All right. Would you rather who has more production on this team if you bring them in for the rest of the season and they both stay healthy?
Yep.
37-year-old Tyson Alualu or 35-year-old JJ
Oh,
listen, guys. JJ Watt.
Not even how many he would get. I want to know. I want to know.
JJ Watt would get 7 sacks. He'd do some things. But at the same token, you go JJ Watt, clearly.
Thank you.
I watched him,
You're ball. You're the ball knower.
I watched him pick off Stafford and run into the end zone like a freight train with no fans in the stands. I would love JJ Watt if you could get him out of retirement. But he's enjoying life. He ain't coming to the Detroit Lions. He's playing around with the attention. He likes it. So it's fun to talk about older guys. But to me, you want somebody 28 to 30 who's hungry and wants to play on a winning team. So JJ Watt, look, man, I love the respect too. And the respect too that the Cowboys showed is noble. They were there huddled around Hutchinson. You saw Schoonmaker, the former teammate, as well. You saw the NFL world, Crosby. A lot of players say, hey, it's a devastating loss. And you saw the brotherly fraternity show support for Hutchinson. So that was nice to see. And
JJ Watt?
No, JJ Watt's not coming to Detroit, guys. I'm sorry.
He's saying Aiden Hutchinson.
No, I'm saying he's JJ Watt over Tyson Alualu. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, I'm JJ Watt over Tyson A. No doubt about it.
Right,
at this point, too. JJ Watt could come in 2 weeks and play. That's how good of physical shape he is. That's a talent that he's got, man. He is a legit badass dude, and I just wish that his career would have crossed paths with the Lions a little bit. That would have been fun.
Yeah, and Doc, last one before we get to the chat. Obviously, Aleem was paid, and the Lions have been pretty good about rewarding their own players. If you had to guess, who would be the next player that's due for the extension on the Lions?
Well, that's a good question. I haven't looked at that. I haven't looked at the cap and things like that. The question mark is going to be, to me, because I did ask the question, because of all the money that was allocated, I think the players that you're looking at next are Levi Onwuzurike. Like, if he balls out, I think that Pascal and Levi Onwuzurike are individuals that have an opportunity to take steps forward. And I think I said on the podcast that the player I thought that was most reliable was going to be Levi. So if he comes in and has a nice run, what do? You give him $15 million a year just based off of 10-game stretch? I don't think so. So I know that that's the name that people will be talking about. I'm not sure who's going to be the one that gets the next contract to me in the season.
What about Kirby?
I think for sure you're going to keep Kirby Joseph. There's no doubt about it. When he's the interception machine, that's the best part about the Lions is there's no doubt about it that players that contribute and produce, they get contracts. The question mark is going to be, how's this team going to look maybe without Derek Barnes and Levi? Would you just let them go and replace, or do you give Derek Barnes another opportunity, knowing that he's coming off of an injury? So those two are interesting to me in terms of the debates that people are going to have, Levi and Derek Barnes, because Derek Barnes was poised to get that contract, but the injury derailed it. And then the question mark is going to be, do you invest in Levi Onwuzurike? So to me, this is why you could have a little bit more hope that if Levi stays healthy and he contributes, he's going to be hungry. Maybe he's the next guy.
Love it. Let's see. We got this question, 2 questions here that we can get to. People want to ask you, Doc.
First one, ask anything.
Michael says, please ask Doc about a Frank update. Wasn't at practice today, Doc? Anything?
Yeah, rest day. No, Frank's all good. Frank will play, all good. He's a warrior, and he's a great player, and he's going to be somebody that's going to be out there. You gotta really, be really, really hurt for him to not play this week. He's going to be there.
All right. Next question. Tyler asked, Doc, has Brad made any comments on the guy they picked up for the Bengals practice squad and what his role could be or will be? Mr. Isaiah Thomas.
Tyler, let's rewind it and remind today the new player on the Lions spent time with this guy. And this guy asked the question, hey, what's your role going to be? Go read it. I'll recap it. It's going to be get your ass after the quarterback. That's his role. And it's the title is if you go to si.com/NFL/Lions, up to the minute news, podcast, a lot of videos, a lot of insider stuff. Go there. The title of the article is Maintaining the Standard, Isaiah Thomas Q&A. He spent, and to me, I want to give credit because we talk about players that are reserved and things like that. He, for an initial 5 minutes in the locker room, come talk to John Maakaron. He was the most reserved. He was the most calm, collected, comfortable, gave me football information, and he was not in any way, shape, or form withholding anything. He was truly honest. You can listen to the audio. I put up the audio as well. It was enjoyable. It made work fun. If all players are like Isaiah Thomas, I could work 24 hours a day. He was open, honest. He told me what his role was going to be. He talked to me about his great attitude about being coached hard by Jim Schwartz. He talked to me about Trey Hendrickson. And I think it's take you about 7-8 minutes to read. You can listen to the podcast if you want to fast forward it. But please give the site a click. I think I have earned it for today. And, check around. We did 10 articles today. I think all 10 will get you information, entertainment, and trolling. A little bit of everything you'll find on our site to keep you around. And I'll say this too. Thank you guys for the chat that likes me or doesn't like me. When I started the project, the average fan would come would visit the site for 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes. Now the average person that visits the site's there for 15 minutes, visiting around, clicking 7, 8, 9 articles. So I thank you. I'm truly humbled by it. You guys let this weird podcaster be in the media and travel well to Dallas, all expenses, no worries. So I thank you guys. I thank you guys for letting me do it. It's all because of you. You like me.
The barbecue.
The barbecue was I gained 5 pounds in Dallas because I ate barbecue nonstop. The trip to Dallas real fast, guys, was great. I went to the Cotton Bowl. You got to go see the Red River rivalry. It was crazy.
You went to the game?
I went to the Cotton Bowl. I went around it. I did not go to the game. It was a blowout. If the game was going to be competitive, I would have gotten my way in. But the co-eds were unreal. It was all beautiful people all the way around, and they were having a good time. The Texas fans were amazing. The Cotton Bowl was great. Downtown Dallas lived up to expectations, and it was a great time, man. And it was worth the trip. I only make a couple trips a year, and I just go no budget, no worries, and it was worth it. Dallas was great. The weather was beautiful. The people were great. There were no issues. I thought maybe I'd see some people open carrying and cowboy gun shit. I was like, no, everybody was cool, calm, collected, and everybody was festive. They were in a great mood. It sucked Saturday because the Tigers lost, but the same token, seeing the Cotton Bowl was in person was absolutely stunning. It was a good time.
You almost got one of those, like in the Western movies, those shootouts where 1v1.
I was this close. I was this close. I said to my friend that was driving me around, I said, "Do you think I need a tan cowboy hat?" He's like, "Listen, not on you." I said, "Okay." He's like, you might end up deported. I said, "You know what? You're probably right." And so I was gonna come on here with a cowboy hat and Hoedown Central, but I said, you know what? I saved the $35 and had a good time in Dallas. I recommend the trip. I think that you four should go the next time the Lions play the Cowboys. You got to see Jerry's World. It is amazing. Dallas, 20, 30 minutes you can get from Fort Worth to Arlington to downtown Dallas. Within 30, 40 miles, you can be in some nice hot spots. And the barbecue, I went to 4 places and all of them legit. There was not a dry brisket in the house in Dallas. Wow. Like everybody has their own, just like how there's a pizza shop everywhere. Every single joint had the best brisket I've ever had in my life. I was just like, what the hell? It was so worth it. I would go to Dallas. It's a good time. It was 85 degrees and the humidity was not bad. So, and guys, 2 hours in the air. So for a guy that's not the best flyer, the drinks were flowing. And it was weird too, because everybody got water all around me. And I'm like, bourbon and Coke, please. And the flight attendant was amazing. They're supposed to give you 1. He gave me 3. I was like, yeah. For $10, I was 2 sheets to the wind before I got to Dallas. I hate flying, guys. It's a
Get
terrible
loose on the flight.
It's the worst anxiety I ever feel is flying, but alcohol always makes it go away. It's just I'm
Fair.
conditioned. You drink, the anxiety goes away. And so to me, I guess for those people that are nervous, let's have a cocktail and say, hey, let's let the Lions win 27-26 and have a big win because, guys, I hate to tell you, Booner, despite your best efforts on earth, despite all your positive Pete friends, if the Lions lose, people are going to be panicking. And even the people in this chat that are positive.
This is a Super Bowl team, Doc.
They're going to panic. So get ready. I'm telling you now, they're going to be upset. They're going to be sad. And they're going to voice things that are going to concern you. So just get ready now that the Lions better win this game because it'll be panic central. And let them do it. Let them do it because the next week you play the Titans, you'll get right back on track. So like I said, the best part about being a sports fan to me is being bipolar. It's the best way to be. The highest of highs, cheering and celebrating the Lions at halftime. The lowest of lows with Aiden Hutchinson going out. So that's sports. That's the way it is.
Yeah, he's saying with the Real American beer in his hand.
Shout out Real American beer.
Real American beer, the official beer of Crunch Time, the greatest internet show at night that I can find around, man. They let me on for an hour. They let me on for an hour, and the chat that says this guy's a downer, and they still let me talk and speak my mind. So I really do appreciate it. Listen, you guys help me be a better reporter because I feel like I let loose and can say whatever I want and be myself. And you guys keep inviting me. So I appreciate it. And listen, I really do appreciate coming on here. It's fun. It's a way to let loose after a tough day. 10 articles covering the Lions in a competitive NFL. And guys, I'm telling you, it's the most tired I ever was Monday flying home because you stay up till 2, 3, you're wired. And you got to get up for an 8 a.m. flight. It was a grind. So it was worth it. But also too, then respect to the beat writers that do it every week. Like I said to my wife, I said, there's no way in hell I would do this every week. I would actually burn out so fast to do that. So credit to the full-time traveling beat writers to do that life full-time. I give you the ultimate props. I'm wore out now still, but still full energy to cover this football team. I can't wait. So listen, Slappy, that's funny. 10 clickbait headlines.
Talk to him, Doc.
Let him know.
I'm only going to say this. You don't have to like it. You don't have to like me in any way, shape, or form. Guys, I'll reiterate. I do not need any new fans. The reason why I was hired was I built a fan base over 6 years that's there no matter what. Nothing new needed. You don't have to like me. Like me, don't like me. It does not matter. You guys see it. I'm employed. I will be employed for the foreseeable future. You will hear my voice. You will see my face. So Slappy, the crazy part is you're commenting about me, which really in the end makes me happy, but go somewhere else. That's all I can say. It's not going to matter to me in any way, shape, or form. Okay. And I'm only going to say this one more time at the end. I'm a success at true heart. My true heart passion is I'm a psychologist. I help people. Currently, I'm working with high-end athletes who are dealing with the struggles of disappointment. The joy of my life is the ability to help people. And when they come to me and say, John, thank you from the bottom of my heart for just being real with me and telling me it's okay if I strike out. It's okay if I don't make the 3-point shot. It's okay if I miss one tackle or miss a kick. It's going to be okay. That is the joy of life. This is just my joy to compete in a realm where a 5'4" guy can say, hey, let's see where I can take a podcast. This is where I've taken it. And there's going to be people that just don't like me, and that's fine. But I truly believe those that will get to know me, have a beer with me, shoot 9 holes.
We like you, Doc.
They'll say, hey, that's a guy's guy. I like to hang out with him. I like to invite him on my evening talk show.
Hey, Doc, okay, so I have two things just real quick. One, we need to get you set up with Javi Baez then. It sounds like you're working with some high-end athletes. We need to get that set up so we can figure out this situation because I guess Javi Baez is going to be on the Tigers again next year in an important role, it sounded like. So we need that set up. And number two, before you go, I don't know how much time you have left. I just want to throw this out there.
All day for you guys.
The Jerry Jones thing. That was crazy. The Jerry Jones situation of him going at some hosts.
Okay. I can
that
share
host the show.
insights to that. I can share insights to that because I kind of learned. I actually have a friend at that station. I went on his show the night I flew in town. So that's 105.3 The Fan, an Odyssey station. So Jerry Jones pays for that segment. So he sponsored himself. He like literally, guys too. I could do that. Like literally, if I wanted to, I could take funds from my business and say to somebody, here's some money. I want it 20 minutes a week. And they would do it. I could do it right now to advertise. I could do it. But Jerry's like, listen, I'm paying for this and you guys are grilling me and just talking all negative. So at that level, I can share at that level, the level of narcissism that Jerry has is so out of this world that despite the chaos and fire and everybody calling him a loser, he still thinks the 3-3 Dallas Cowboys are going somewhere. The man is delusional, but he's got control. So at that level, he bought time on a radio station for several years. So he's like, I'm not sitting here getting criticized. And like, it would literally be like, if I was paying you guys to have me here and you guys just being like, why did you write clickbait headlines? Why do you do this? And why do you do that? And this, and I'd just be like, I'm paying you guys to kind of talk nice about me. So, right. But you don't do that as an NFL owner. You don't threaten young guys. Their job is to ask you tough questions. But in the end, Jerry Jones went unhinged because of the Lions kicked their ass in the national stage on his birthday. That's the best way to unhinge somebody, is to just demoralize, embarrass them at the highest level. And so, guys, I mean, the one guy in the chat that asked, the reason why I talk so much away from the psychology is because for most of the sessions, it's 45 minutes of the client talking and 15 minutes of me. So this is my outlet to be able to speak, because most of my, but I'm only in practice now. I've went to full-time sports mostly. I take clients. I go on a case-by-case basis, and I'm working, I scale back to practice maybe 40%, but it's just, to me, I'll never give up my psychology license. I've practiced in practice 25 years. And then to the one chat, it's real simple. Guys, I've studied human behavior for 30 years. Okay. I love psychology. I read psychology books since I was 15, 16. So to me, in any capacity, it's not fun, but I could unhinge anybody with certain things I could say or do or like that. It's not that hard for me to rile up Booner. It's not going to be that hard for a psychologist who's
I think I could rile you up too, Doc. Don't worry.
You probably could rile me up too, but it's not that difficult for a human that studies behavior to rile people up. I mean, it's not that difficult. I could just write sports stories and rile up half the fan base.
Yeah, well, that good job.
You laugh after.
And streams only. Yes, I'm just yapping, and you're still commenting with my name in it. So it's the joy. It's the reverse joy that I have. That this guy hates what I'm saying, doesn't like it, and still is here. Cheers to that, boys. I can't wait for next week. Lions win. They go to Minnesota and focus to the highest degree. They win this week. And remember, don't like me. Please just read the information. It's there. It's free information. Don't read the headline. Just go click. Don't read the headline. Just click and read what's there, and don't worry about that headline aspect. Anyway,
don't worry about the headline after.
Don't worry about the headline. Don't worry. Just read just click on some words, close your eyes, click and read something, and you'll never have to worry about the headlines, okay? Because that's really that's 2%. And guys, I don't have to bait anybody. I will one day when I'm ready to retire. I'm going to show you the numbers. I'm just going to say, this is how many people read and watch my videos. And you'll be like, that many people looked at his ugly fucking face? I should start a channel. Yes. That's what's going to happen. So peace, brothers. Watch my videos. Thanks, guys.
Hey, we love you, Doc.
I love you, Doc.
Oh,
he's gone. The man disappears. Man just disappears out of nowhere. It's magic, man. the entertainment of it is something else.
I mean, by the way, I'm not huge into psychology, but this dude is a narcissist. I mean, that's
You could say that he's not having a happy.
Did you guys hear the clip?
Narcissist. Oh my god.
I didn't hear them because wasn't it like 3 minutes long?
Dude, I think we could play it. I don't think we would get.
Yeah, we can
blocked.
definitely play that.
I posted it on our Twitter the other day. It is something else. This guy basically told
play that and we'll go into mailbag because I haven't actually been able to hear like the part where he threatened him because I was at work. I was like, I can't watch this full thing.
He went at the job. He said, I'll get you. I'll get someone else to ask me questions. And he said, and then he was like, I'm not kidding. And then later, it's not in the clip, but later he was like trying to be nice to him. It was like, they were like, why'd you get mad at us? We're just doing our job. And he's like, I never get mad at anyone. It was like, dude, you just had a breakdown, Jerry. He was like, I never get mad at anyone. He was like, I wouldn't be on this show if I was going to get mad. I wouldn't waste my time.
Like imagine when people are like, bring in Bill Belichick. You think Bill Belichick's dealing with that? Fuck no. Ain't no way.
Well, here's the clip. Let's listen to the little bit of the interview here. Hold on.
I will let us sit down and look at the decisions we've made over the last several years. Okay? I'll look at it. Now, if you think I'm interested on a damn phone call with you over a radio and sitting here and throwing all the good out with the dishwater, you have got to be smoking something over there this morning. I'm not. And I really don't. And I don't even want our listeners to listen to me. To talk about, this is not your job. Your job isn't to let me go over all the reasons that I did something and I'm sorry that I did it. That's not your job.
Well, my job is to ask why.
A job, or I'll get somebody else to ask these questions, man.
Jerry, we're trying to figure out why the team is.
I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. You're not going to figure out what the team is doing right or wrong. If you are, or any 5 or 10 like you, you need to come to this meeting I'm going to today. There are 32 teams here. You're geniuses.
Jerry,
okay? Y'all really think you're going to sit here with a microphone and tell me all of the things that I've done wrong and without going over the rights?
Well,
now, listen, we both know we're talking to a lot of great fans and a lot of great listeners. And I am very sorry for what happened out there Sunday. I'm sick about what happened Sunday. Now, I'm not talking to these yahoos on the end of this phone. I'm talking to you, the fans that are listening this morning. And we can spend a lot of time going over zigging and zagging. One of the stupidest things I've ever done that anybody has ever analyzed is by the Cowboys. It was an idiot.
What is he even saying right now?
Dude, he's old. He doesn't know what he's talking about. The man's done.
Remember when Doc was saying, like, reality hurts a whole lot more? You refuse to accept what's going on. And then
like if you're in denial. Yeah.
I think Jerry's he's so far gone that stage of, like, accepting denial is just gone. Like,
dude,
he will never. Like, in his mind right now, the Dallas Cowboys still have Troy Aikman, Michael Irvin, Emmitt Smith, Larry Allen. They got the whole crew still. They never left. They still got the Magic White House where Michael Irvin's having a good time right before the game. They still got all that going on. I mean, you got Dak Prescott as your quarterback. You just paid him $60 million after he was already the highest paid quarterback in the NFL pretty much. It's insane.
Yeah, the doc said it earlier, narcissist. It's not hard to realize that. I mean, the dude's stadium's called Jerry's World. And when he talks, he doesn't wait for a response. He just talks. Like, the guys were trying to respond. He just kept talking. Like, he's not, trying to get your response. He's just talking. So yeah, he's a narcissist, huge narcissist. Everything. I mean, he doesn't want the accountability. He wants all the success of the Cowboys, but he wants no accountability. Quotation marks for those who are listening. But he wants no accountability.
Dude, they haven't been good in 30 years. Like, he hasn't put a product together in 30 years.
But it ain't his fault. Like he says, he would say,
sell the team.
You got to point out the good things he's done in those 30 years.
Yeah,
dude, I could probably, if you give me 30 years at an NFL franchise, I probably would be able to put together a team that gets farther than he has since the 90s. Honestly, like have faith I
Booner's
could.
building instead of Jerry's world.
Dude.
Just Booner's building on the top of it.
We're in 2024. The man hasn't won a thing since the 90s. Give me that long in a franchise, and I'll put the right people. I'll go find an elite GM. I'll go find a head coach. Like, dude, I would go out. If I'm the owner, I would go out and find pieces. Like, we're not losing for 24 years. There would at least be a couple years where we get to a Super Bowl. But, like, Jerry has not done that in, like, almost 30 years now. Like it's insane. And the fact that he's still, like, the face in America's team, and he thinks he knows everything and he's the best that's ever touched the NFL. It's like, dude, you actually are probably, like, let's take the last, you might be the worst owner of all time in the NFL outside if you take away the 90s. Like, dude, he has like a 10-year stretch. Take away those 10 years, he legit might be the worst.
Well, I do want to ask you, Booner. We have 5 minutes. You never really got to share your thoughts on Haason Reddick.
Yeah, I mean,
what
I listened to you. And by the way, the doc, I mean, I don't want to delete chats, but that's a disrespectful chat there. Let's take that off the screen. What are we doing here? What are we talking about? And there's no cursing going on here. I love Aiden Hutchinson. What are we doing there? Yeah, I don't know. The Haason Reddick stuff, I mean, I talked about it with you, I think, Jeff, at one point. We actually talked about it a couple weeks back about when all this Jets situation was going on. I think we all agreed when that was going on, it was kind of a weird situation where, like, do you trust Haason to come in? Klotz, I liked your point earlier in the show when you brought it up that first of all, if Brad's making the phone call to check in on Haason Reddick, I do trust him. So if he feels like it's the right move, whether he does it or not, like, at least just making the phone call to see and, like, do his homework. Dan Campbell said today, in his press conference, he said, like, Brad's going to do his homework, like, from top to bottom. So yeah, he's going to be making calls, and that doesn't mean he wants a player just because he makes the calls. It's just him doing his homework and making sure he's learning about a player. He's doing this, he's doing that. But if the Haason Reddick thing came around, like, one, I trust Brad Holmes fully. Like, I truly do. Like, I don't think Brad would bring a guy in that's going to affect the locker room, affect the team. And I don't think, to Klotz, your point earlier, I think you've built such a good culture with Dan Campbell. And, like, you've seen it with different guys, like the whole Isaiah Buggs situation over the last 2 years. He was supposed to be a piece on this defense. In the culturally, like, the culture fit of, like, just being in the locker room and all of that, like, it did not seem like it was a Detroit Lions type culture of a guy and then the way he went about it. And that's why you went and got DJ Reader and brought, a guy who's big time on culture with DJ Reader. And Aleem McNeil, you just signed him. So I do think the Haason thing, if they decide to bring Haason Reddick in, I trust that this culture is built up enough in the locker room to where what you said, Klotz, you can't tear that down. You can't. It's for Haason. It's you come in and, like, this isn't a Philadelphia Eagles culture that they have going on over the last year and a half. This isn't a New York Jets culture where they just fired their head coach and Aaron Rodgers has all this stuff going on. This is a Dan Campbell, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jared Goff, Aleem McNeil, Aiden Hutchinson, that Kirby Joseph, Brian Branch type of culture to where you're not going to tear that apart. And if you do, they'll move on from you so fast. And Andrew Jones said in the chat, Reddick has zero issues in Philly. Obviously he wanted to get traded, but that was contract stuff. So I'm in on the Reddick things. If it happens, I'm all in. Like, I'm all ears. Like, let's do it. Like, the man's averaged over 12.5 sacks over the last 4 seasons. So he can play. And I'm guessing right now, if what's going on, I'm guessing he is in game shape, ready to go, because he was supposed to be playing for the Jets. So I think he would be able to instantly come in. Dan said today, he said, whether we get a big player or not, whoever it is, even if it's a big player, whoever it is, and they come in, we're going to put them in instantly. Don't care about the calls. Don't care about the verbiage, nothing. He was like, whoever comes in, they're playing instantly. So give me Haason Reddick. Go ahead. I think that would be a game changer.
He's in game shape, Boone, but is he in J.J. Watt game shape?
We're not doing that now.
The game shape thing. Here we go again.
No, I like the Haason Reddick thing, though. And like, more with that, too, is like the Zadarius Smith stuff. I was one of the first ones to say, hey, let's bring Zadarius Smith in, guys. And the other day, and now all of a sudden, I don't know if you guys I saw rumors on Twitter that Brad Holmes called Cleveland. I don't know how true it was. I didn't put it out because I don't know how true it was. But I'm saying there are rumors out there that Brad also had inquired about Zadarius Smith and the Cleveland Browns. So things are starting to happen, and I think we know there will be a move done. And if it's Haason Reddick, I'm all in on it.
I'm with you, Boone.
And two, I'm sorry to cut you off. That's on me. You guys mentioned it when I was driving in. The whole deal. And I think you have to give up a second for Reddick, essentially. I think that's what it is. I think it's because
if the Jets
because the third, yeah. So if the third round for the Eagles turns into a second, so essentially the Jets are having to give up a second. You're probably going to have to re-give them a second to be able to make it up. So that's just how it would work. I mean,
Makes
it's just
sense.
because, yeah. So that's what it is. If that deal or that whole thing with the Eagles wasn't a thing, you might not have to do a second. But with that, I'm guessing, like everything I'm seeing and reading about, it's like it's going to have to be a second if it is the thing.
Steve Price.
Do they really even have leverage to ask for a second? Like, Haason Reddick's not playing, and like nothing's really.
They don't, but they can easily just be like, we
just
leave him. He just won't play then.
I would give up a second though in a heartbeat. Like when people, especially when you talk about, I understand if you're talking about, and this isn't a shot, like the Jadeveon Clowney, Zadarius Smith. Like if you overpay for a guy like that, as far as mortgaging the future, I understand. But when you talk about guys like Haason Reddick, Trey Hendrickson, obviously Max Crosby, Myles Garrett, giving up a second, third round pick for a chance to legitimately win a Super Bowl, not make a run at a Super Bowl. Like the Lions can make a run at a Super Bowl right now, but you want to talk about a Super Bowl winning move? The second round, I understand you found Brian Brandt, Sam, but you have those guys. You have the key pillars. You're now a Super Bowl winning team. Now that you're out of the rebuilding stage where you really want those second round picks, giving up a second or third round pick is not foregoing your future. Your future is now, and now you have to win a Super Bowl. So I don't think when people kind of talk about like giving up a first round pick for Max Crosby or even 2 first round picks, like if you can get a guy like that, I'm just using it as an example. I don't give a damn because Max Crosby is going to be helping you win a Super Bowl while he's here for those next 2 years.
Yeah, and you have to think too. It'd be a rental essentially. You're paying.
Tyler does have a point too. It's a bottom of a barrel second rounder. He said it is going to be obviously a late second rounder, basically like a third at that point. So another good point.
All right. Hey, good show today, fellas. Appreciate the chat and the volume of listeners and watchers and viewers. And don't forget to subscribe. I mean, yesterday we were in the 700s, 9,700 or something. Now we're at 9,800. We're getting to the 9,800. We're creeping closer to 10K. You guys make it all possible. Shout out to the Doc for joining the show. We love him. Even though some of the chat
legend.
He's the best. He's
entertaining at the end of the day.
He's one of the greatest human beings ever, man. All right. Until tomorrow, we'll be back
with
another great show, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. I'll see you there. Until then, deuces.
Peace.